Morning, ladies and gentlemen. We welcome you to a celebratory meeting, one which we've come to celebrate the works, the hard work, the planning, the vision for our budget for the next fiscal year. This morning, this is reflective of a wonderful, amazing tapestry of varied units of government that have come together for the consideration of the Board of County Commissioners to determine that which we will vote yea and that for which we would ask a reconsideration. Our staff has already done a civil job of preparing a budget that we shouldn't have to have too many fist fights. But I see Sheriff Gilmore here this morning, so if there are some fist fights, Sheriff, I won't be the one starting. Vince, you have a wonderful package. We're anxious to get started. We will yield and turn our forward progress over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, good morning and welcome to your first workshop on the FY23 preliminary budget. And Commissioners, I need to tell you right off the bat, it should be an easy one. When you think about it, the only thing the issues that we have to deal with in the 23 budget are $5 a gallon gas, 8% inflation, persistent supply chain issues.
That's all?
Lingering concerns about COVID, ongoing geopolitical conflict, and growing fears about a recession. But other than that, FY23 is looking up. So Alan reminds me that as dire as some of the projections are with the upcoming budget, that we just budget our way through an entire economic shutdown. So how bad could it possibly get? Well, Commissioners, despite my lame attempt at levity, the budget picture isn't all bad. But as you know, a big part of our budget process is ensuring that we continue to place the county in the best position possible to handle whatever comes our way. And the board has consistently done that through the budget process, and the FY23 budget continues that practice. Commissioners, as you'll see throughout today, the impacts of inflation are felt throughout the FY23 budget. High fuel cost, impacts on contracts and commodities prices, and significant construction costs increase. And while we continue to recover from the severe revenue losses caused by the shutdown of the economy due to COVID, supply chains continue to struggle to keep up with consumer demand. Gas prices continue to react to geopolitical conflict. The Fed continues to try to tackle inflations. And again, some analysts are projecting a recession in the not too distant future. But as you often hear me say, Commissioners, the development of an annual budget is a year-round process. And it's not only a year-round process, but it's a multi-year process that reflects not only the needs of any fiscal year, but the board's long-term fiscal policies, as well as contingency planning to ensure the county's long-term fiscal viability. And Commissioners, like previous years, because of the deliberate actions over numerous budget cycles, the county was and is in a strong fiscal position. We were in a strong fiscal position to address the significant lingering issues, and we are in a strong fiscal position to handle the lingering fiscal issues of COVID-19 and the current high inflation climate that we find ourselves in today. During COVID, Commissioners, again, going back to this long-term process that is our budget process, because of the fiscal planning in the preceding years leading up to the COVID crisis, and with a high-performing workforce, as you all know, we quickly stood up CARES programs that provided extraordinary assistance to thousands of individuals and businesses throughout the community. In addition, Commissioners, we remain agile through this process. We took advantage of historically low interest rates by refinancing existing debt and financing new debt for several capital projects in this past year. In the present and future interest rate environments, Commissioners, I think that will prove to have been very timely. Of course, we experienced high unemployment levels and stay-at-home orders in FY21 and 22, which severely impacted government revenues such as gas taxes and sales taxes and tourism taxes. Commissioners, again, I know you know this story as we lived through it, but as such, the 23 budget intentionally restores reserves. It reduces the use of fund balance. It establishes proper pay and compensation levels for the organization so that we can effectively address the future. This strong foundation, Commissioners, was built on budget discipline and sound fiscal planning and an organization-wide focus on innovation and cost avoidance and efficiency. That same approach continues to serve us well moving forward. This is the background upon which the FY23 preliminary budget is being developed. Commissioners, in summary, given these conditions, the highlights of the budget before you today reflect, and let me not bury the lead, no millage rate increase or fee increases of any kind. This is the 11th consecutive year with no millage rate increase. And Commissioners, while property values are up, and we'll talk a little bit more about this today, while property values are up 9.24%, we are correspondingly experiencing inflation of more than 8.5%. So a little bit of an offset that we have to deal with there. The budget also reflects, Commissioners, as you see on the screen before you, a reduced use of fund balance. Actually, we've drawn that fund balance level down to zero in the FY23 budget, which positions us for future budgetary uncertainty in the next fiscal year. That's very important. We maximize federal funding in the FY23 budget. At this point in time, Commissioners, as you know, we've expended our CARES dollars. We're closing out our ERA programs, and we're utilizing ARPA funding to replace lost revenues in the FY23 budget. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, the FY23 budget restores reserves. Very important. Maybe not the sexiest thing in the world, but extraordinarily important. And those Commissioners who have been around, again, for a long time know that that's critically important when we face budgetary challenges. We maintain a high quality level of service in FY23. The budget reflects several service enhancements, which we'll address a little bit later. And unlike prior years, it reflects no service reductions. Again, due in part to the benefit of a more quickly recovering economy from COVID. It maintains strategic long-term investments in infrastructure. Very important. The capital budget is $22 million. That gets us to about where we were prior to the COVID economy in general over the past couple of fiscal years. Again, we don't talk about it a lot, but that $22 million is so critical. We all have a propensity, I think, to look at new projects, but that's mostly a maintenance budget. That maintenance budget is critically important as we maintain thousands of acres and parks and trails and numerous playgrounds and miles of sidewalks and roads and over 2 million square feet of facilities and countless computer files and servers, and the list goes on. This budget, Commissioners, also ensures a high-performing workforce with fair pay and equitable practices by establishing a minimum starting pay of $15 an hour for all employees. That was a directive of this board last year. Implementing a pay and compensation study to ensure our employees' pay is competitive in this market, which we all know now, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. And it also includes funding a performance pay raise, which we include in the annual budget perennially of 0 to 5% with an average of 3%. Again, we try to, as we've tried to do in previous years. Finally, Commissioners, the budget continues to optimize our resources and aligns our organizational efforts to continuously fulfill the mission that is in your strategic plan. to have a community which is safe, healthy, and vibrant. This budget accomplishes that, Commissioners, from dedicated funding for the board's approved strategic initiatives to full support of the sheriff's budget request, to the addition of a 24/7, a new 24/7 ambulance, to a new litter debris crew. Again, these are strategic initiatives that will all ring very familiar to this board, which you've included in the strategic plan. To food insecurity, we'll talk about that, another strategic plan of yours, and more. But I need to give Alan a few things to talk about here in a moment. So as I wrap up my opening comments, Commissioners, let me just emphasize the amount of effort that goes into the preparation of the budget. That effort has been immense, and again, it's year-round. I hope you'll agree what might have been highly complex or arduous issues are presented here in a clear and straightforward manner for your policy deliberation process. That's always our goal. Finally, Commissioners, before we transition to the remainder of the day, I want to remind the board that today's workshop is scheduled from 9 to 3, but the chairman says he's not going to need any amount of time like that, close to that. Again, I'm sure we'll not need all this time, but we do have several budget discussion items for the board to consider. Building on this preliminary budget, Commissioners, any additional policy guidance that you provide us today will be considered at your June 12th budget workshop, if needed, as part of, and also as part of the July 12th ratification, budget workshop ratification. Commissioners, I also want to take a moment to thank all the county staff on their efforts in getting us to this point today, including Scott Ross, importantly, and Rashonda Bradley, and all of the OMB for their dedication and their continuously excellent work. In the words of Chairman Proctor, I need to recognize our constitutional officers, Commissioners. I know we all greatly appreciate their spirit of cooperation through this process. Needless to say, they have a significant impact on the county's annual budget, and the excellent working relationship, again, is something I know we all greatly appreciate. I want to also thank this board again for your consistent policy direction and leadership leading up to today in the development of the FY23 budget. Staff, of course, we're here. We're on hand to answer all the questions that you might have today. And with that as an overview, I'm going to hand it off to Alan Rosenzweig, our Deputy County Administrator, to go into just a little bit more detail on the overall budget. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Vince. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to take a few minutes now to just dive a little deeper and build on what the Administrator shared with you so far. What you'll see on the screen is just an overview for this morning. I'm not going to read everything out to you, obviously, but we have a series of budget discussion items following this overview item, and then the Administrator will walk you through those specific items. In each of the items, as we do every year and as we do with all agenda items, we provided a series of options for the board's consideration and recommendations. We anticipate at the conclusion of each item, the board would obviously consider those options and give us any additional policy guidance you feel is appropriate at that time. Any of the guidance you provide today, Commissioners, of course, will be brought back to you as part of your ratification in July. With those opening comments, I do want to take a few minutes to build on what Vince shared with you already and dig a little deeper on the state of the economy. As we all know, we came off the previous COVID recession much faster than we originally anticipated. You may recall last year, the year before, we were sitting here talking about K's and V's and U-shaped recessions. We clearly had a V-shaped recession coming out of the pandemic. It went down, it came back up. Of course, as part of that, we had a lot of strong pent-up consumer demand, which then overheated the economy, and we started producing hiring much quicker than anticipated. At the same time, the very basic premises, we had supply chains that were very challenged to keep up with the demand, which created the high inflation we're dealing with right now. Again, as with the pandemic, monetary policy only at the federal level can deal with inflation. Like with the pandemic, where the federal government dealt with CARES and ERA and ARPA, only the federal government has the tools available to them to mitigate high inflation, and we're starting to see it. The Fed, the Federal Reserve, as you all know, has recently aggressively started increasing interest rates, moving those rates at the fastest levels in 40 years, and we anticipate that to continue for at least one, if not two more cycles of rate increases. The Fed has stated clearly that they are going to keep doing what they needed to do until they see inflation come down to an acceptable level. So given all these inflationary constraints, our projection of property values returning to normal levels next year and the following year, as Vince said, we're at 9.24% this year. We do not anticipate those levels of growth again in the near future. With that happening, the future uncertainty of a possible recession, again, all this builds toward the fact that our preliminary budget takes a very responsible approach in building back reserves to prepare for what may come next. So everything's predicated on that. Providing a few just of the basic highlights of the budget, commissioners, and I'm going to take a few 3 or 4 slides to walk you through all this, is the budget right now is about $316 million, a 7.5% increase over last year. That number at this point in time is still the lowest per capita of our comparable counties, and at the end of my presentation, I'll highlight that with a couple of specific slides. As the board directed last year during your budget workshop, we put a 2-year plan in place to get to the $15 an hour minimum wage. In the current year, we're at 14. The board directed last year at this time to bring this year's budget in at $15 minimum wage. That's 4 years ahead of the state mandate. We continue to implement the ARPA plan the board approved at last year's budget workshop. Those funds are contemplating the budget as previously approved. And then, of course, I'm going to take a few minutes to go a little deeper on this. The budget does include funding to support a number of the board's approved strategic initiatives. As you know, our budget process starts early. It starts with your strategic planning process in January and with the approval of your strategic plan. And while we're continuously working throughout the year to implement your entire strategic plan, the budget process often includes specific dedicated funding of some specific strategic initiatives. I should have read that out loud to myself a few times before. So included in this budget, we want to highlight 4 strategic initiatives we've identified funding and new positions for in several cases. One, of course, is a new 4-person litter debris crew. We're very excited about that. That's going to help us maintain our 519 miles of road throughout the year. Again, this is for county roadways. Brent said he's going to get all that trash picked up, and he promised me that.
100%.
100%, guaranteed. We also then have a separate budget discussion item. We're going to spend some time a little later, so I won't spend a lot of time on it right now, on food insecurity. We have a position dedicated to that and support for our local partners. We're also providing $1 million in this budget towards our Central Libraries Initiative, which the board had previously approved in the strategic plan. This will help us get some of the initial capital improvements started at the main library. And lastly, we have another standalone discussion item on a grants coordinator to leverage the $1 million $1 trillion, in our federal infrastructure bill. So that's just a few of the highlights of your strategic initiatives. But before I dive into the actual spending of the budget, one of the things we do throughout the year, commissioners, is we identify cost avoidance and savings. It's a very deliberate approach. It's not just done during the budget process. We do this, and the administrator is emphatic about it, that we do this prior to seeking any new fees, taxes, or any positions, or any new funding in the budget. And this year, and we have the details attached in your materials, we identified $3.4 million in savings. And cumulatively, since 2013, we've identified $62.3 million in savings. So again, all those materials are in your packet. I want to take a minute now, commissioners, and just walk you through some of the revenues and expenditures. Here we go. In the budget. The main point of this slide, of course, is we are preliminarily balanced, commissioners. You'll see on the left and right column, the overall increases in revenues are correspondingly matched with an increase in our expenditures. All the details are in your materials, and we discussed this during your briefings already. I do want to repeat this one line that Vince has already said, because I think it's very important, that the property taxes, while have gone up 9.24%, we do see that offset by inflation at the similar rate. Other revenue growth that you'll see on the revenue side, Commissioner, is associated with basically post-pandemic spending increases, consumer spending and tourism activities. So a lot of our sales tax-based revenues have gone up as well based on spending, as well as you'll see the tourism going back up because we're seeing tourism returning to pre-pandemic levels. After that, if you look at the expense side, commissioners, again, the budget fully supports the sheriff and all the other constitutional officer budget requests. And generally, the balance of the budget reflects the impacts of inflation on our overall contracts and expenditures. As we shift a little, I do want to take a moment, and Vince made a highlight of this at his opening comments as I get my slide to advance. There we go. This screen, Commissioner, shows the use of our general fund balance from 2010. And before I discuss the trend line, I do want to just take a moment to explain what fund balance is. Fund balance in our parlance is the county's reserves. And we keep, pursuant to board-approved policy, we retain our fund balances for cash flow. So basically in the fall, while we're waiting for property taxes to come in, they don't get collected and distributed to the county until November, we use our cash to pay our bills for October and November because we don't have the cash. And otherwise, we'd be actually going out to banks to get loans until the property taxes come in. We also retain our fund balances to deal with unforeseen emergencies. We keep it on hand to keep cash flow going when we have a hurricane. And of course, we retain our fund balances to accumulate funds for future large capital projects. What you see on the screen is our general fund balance, our property tax supported fund balance. Our other funds, like our building fund, our tourism fund, et cetera, have their own dedicated funds generated by their own dedicated revenues. What you're looking at here is our property tax supported general fund balance. So if you look at the graphic, back in 2010 was the last time we didn't use any fund balance in balancing the budget. Then, for those who remember, and we all do, we had a rather significant recession, and coming out of the recession in 2013, our use of fund balance peaked at $5 million. It was not unreasonable to use the money at that time. Like I said, that was an unforeseen emergency, and we had some catastrophic declines in revenues. Since 2013, as you can see, there's basically a trend line on that chart. We've basically been reducing our overall use of fund balance every year since that time. We've had a couple of small ups and downs, but overall the trend has been in a steady decline. In the current year budget, the 22 budget, we actually budgeted $800,000, which is our lowest level since 2010. And right now, as the 2023 budget is preliminary balanced, we're using no fund balance at this point in time. I do want to take a minute now and walk through and I'll go through these couple of slides fairly quickly. This first slide walks you through the new positions we're adding in the budget or recommended they add into the budget. The majority of them, or the vast majority of them, are directly in support of the board's strategic initiatives, the public works crew, the grants coordinator, the food insecurity position. The only other position on there what I highlight is just a support technician to work at some ongoing maintenance at the jail. If we look at this next slide, Commissioner, these are non-general revenue or non-property tax supported positions. The one I want to focus on here real quickly, Commissioners, is the EMS positions. This is adding 10 new positions to bring on board another 24/7 ambulance. It does take 10 full-time positions to run an ambulance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to allow for shift change, vacations, training, et cetera. Sure.
Go back to just that last slide real quick. Commissioners, I just wanted to point out just one quick thing to you. As we talked about already, the positions that we've already discussed are those that align with your strategic initiatives. And again, you know how conservative we are with adding positions in the budget, and still this obviously is a very, very low number of positions to add to the budget. But it did, other than those that we've already discussed, the support technician in the jail is very important. And I just point that out because that's a position that, again, in keeping with some of the board priorities in terms of jail population, and again, trying to defer and keep up with the required maintenance on a facility that the jail requires. It's really important to our other long-term goals of managing as good as we can that facility and deferring as long as we can any significant jail expansion and that sort of thing, which of course we know is very, very costly. But I just wanted to point that out very quickly.
And picking up back where we were on the in the public safety arena, the EMS crew is clearly needed to address increased call volumes, and we've shared some of that data previously, and to maintain our current service levels. And then the other two positions are dedicated positions in tourism, and we do have additional SHIP funding, as the board's aware. The state has started to regularly fund that. So within those funds, we're going to recommend a position so we can get those dollars out the door. Staying with positions, something we want to spend a few minutes talking about is our pay plan that the administrator mentioned at the beginning of the meeting. Commissioners, normally organizations would do pay and compensation studies every 2-3 years, give or take, to ensure we remain competitive with the market, to make sure our salaries are properly set with the market. However, we have not done a organizational-wide pay study for a long time. The reason being we haven't had the resources to implement the results of a study. What we have done historically over the last several years is we've targeted specific positions where we had a specific need. So if we saw a concern in EMS, we had HR do a dedicated targeted study. What this study did was look at the entire organization. We engaged Evergreen, which is an industry leader in pay and compensation studies. This is also the same firm that the clerk of the court and the sheriff used this year in doing studies for their own agencies. The purpose of having an industry leader do it ensures we have an arm's length objective review of the analysis performed. Evergreen went out and compared us to 17 other governments in Florida. What they ultimately determined is incorporated into recommended budget before you, that any of our employees that are below the market value, their minimum salaries will effective October 1st be moved to the market value. And again, this is separate and apart from any performance raise those employees will be eligible for. So they would get this as well as their performance raise on top of this. This is merely to get them to what the market says they should be being paid. And something we want to point out specifically, that 87% of this $550,000 is going to our lowest paid employees making less than $19 an hour. So the overwhelmingly vast majority of these funds will go to the lowest paid employees. I want to shift a little now to just quickly highlight how we compare to our surrounding or to the benchmarks around the state. As I said early on, we continue to have the lowest net budget per capita of our comparables. We also maintain the lowest net budget per capita of our comparables. And when it comes to county employees, we're right in the middle, which we feel is appropriate at this point, but they're all very clustered together there, as you can see. The next steps in the budget, back.
The big difference is, and just always important to note, is that we do this with the most property value off the tax rolls due to property tax exemptions, which is always important to mention.
Yep, and that would have been a good slide to include. That's going to my notes for next year. So the next couple of steps in the budget process, commissioners, right now the values we have in the budget are the property appraisers' initial estimates we get June 1st. We will get final values on July 1st. As we have in the past, we don't anticipate any major changes there. I think the property appraiser is really trying to focus on getting those values as accurate as they can June 1st. But that being said, any of the final values will be incorporated into the ratification for July, and we would use either any minor ups or downs at that point when we bring you the ratification. If we need a workshop, of course, we have July 12th tentatively set, and then you have your 2 public hearings in September. I do want to take a moment, commissioners, though, and talk about some things that we want to lay the foundation for future budgets, because this is the appropriate time to stop and pause about some issues that were identified that we think we need to bring to your attention as we build the foundation for next year. In particular, I want to take a minute to talk about our fire and EMS funds. These 2 funds, Commissioner, both our emergency medical services and our fire funds, are intended to be designed to be fully funded by dedicated revenues, fees and taxes, and meaning the users of the programs are paying for these services. And like everything we do at the county, commissioners, we work diligently to retain the highest quality of service while optimizing the limited resources we have. So for EMS, our program is intended to be funded through a combination of a dedicated property tax, an MSTU, and user fees, basically fees for transport services. And that's how the program was designed when we initially set it up. In 2015, we brought in a similar meeting like this, a budget discussion item to the board at that time, and we recommended a plan to draw down our fund balances in EMS. What had occurred was we had accumulated sufficient fund balances up to 2015, well in excess of our policy maximums at that point in time. And we determined in our recommendations to the administrator that there was not any way we would come to this board and say, raise the EMS MSTU, and we had a significant amount of cash in the bank. That just didn't make any sense. It was much more logical to recommend, let's draw down those fund balances to support operating expenses, and at the appropriate time in the future, we would then come back and discuss the long-term financing for EMS. So at this point in time, we feel that that's going to occur in the next several years, but before we even got there, in 2020, we brought a budget workshop to the board, and we had some bonds expire at that point in time. Again, to delay the need to raise property taxes or fees, we recommended that we use some of the debt service savings from that bond to, again, help pay for EMS. That had a couple of years of life. We got it through this year as well. So in total, commissioners, we continue to invest in our EMS fund and to grow it. As you saw in this program, in this budget recommendation, we're including 10 positions. We see the need to grow the program, but at the same time, we also realize we have to be fiscally responsible and bring you recommendations to ensure the fund stays whole going into the future. So we're not asking for anything this year, commissioners. We just wanted to lay the foundation that at the workshop next year, we'll bring you back to fiscal options for the long-term funding of EMS, as well as what we anticipate the growth in the expenditure side may be.
Alan?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I don't want to just lock commissioners out. Are there any inquiries of commissioners at this point on what you've heard so far? I just want to say, Alan, with respect to EMS, our board has been concerned with the cost of catching an ambulance, about $1,200, $1,300 per ride. And we, as a practice, when we can't recover it, we send it to debt collection, which ends up on people's credit record. As you bring it and think about it next year, are you all considering our concerns for that ride being much higher than Uber? And also, are you all considering to stop the practice of reporting debt to credit bureaus on people who can't afford to pay for their medical ride?
Commissioners, if I may respond to that. Actually, several years ago, I think 2 or 3 budget cycles ago, you raised this and we had this specific issue, and we did lower the rates at that point in time. Our actual ride rates, we dropped by 20 or 24% at that point in time because they were at some of the highest in the state. So in 2 or 3 years ago, we dropped that. Also, at the same time, we put in a program to address the exact issue you're raising about moving to collection agencies. We do have a sliding scale system in place, commissioners, for people based on ability to pay. So if you don't have insurance, we do have payment plans, and we also do waive fees depending on certain circumstances. So all of those things you've addressed, we have looked at, but we're always trying to make sure that our fees are appropriate, and we do look at that. But we have no intention of bringing back any increases in any of those fees at all next year. We'll be looking at the EMS MSTU, the property tax, most likely. Commissioner, like EMS, the fire fund was also designed to be fully supported by a dedicated fire fee. And in 2010, we set up this program with the city. Of course, we contract with the city to provide fire services in the unincorporated area. It's funded with a fire service fee. The fees are normally put in place for a 5-year period of time. As part of last year's budget process, the board did identify, or we brought to the board a recommendation to start a new fire services fee, because prior to that, we had extended our 5 years by, again, with that debt service savings plan we brought to the board, we brought a fiscal plan, and like EMS, we took some of those savings to mitigate the need to raise the fire fee for about 2 years. This is the second year, what we're looking at in 2023, to again delay the need to increase that fee in the unincorporated area. But right now, the fee is being conducted, or the study's being conducted, excuse me. It's a very rigorous, legally rigorous fee study to ensure we comply with all the legal requirements associated with levying a non-ad valorem assessment on a tax bill. So all of that is being conducted right now. We will bring that back to the board for consideration early in next year's budget process. Finally, commissioners, on the screen, you'll see the recommendations in item 1 for your consideration. This would be the appropriate time of the process, Commissioner, to seek board direction on any of these items or any additional action the board may wish to provide on the overall budget. Based on the direction we've received today, again, everything will be reflected for your consideration and your ratification at your July meeting. We're recommending options 1 through 7, and I'll turn it back to Vince for some final comments.
Just upon your action on this overview item, commissioners, as you know, we'll stop, just like any board meeting, we'll stop after the introduction of every budget discussion item to seek your feedback, present recommendations, and seek your feedback. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the diligent work that is going into this morning's presentation. No doubt, this is it remains high wire stuff, and when our calculations are based upon economic assumptions, wherein our economy is so vulnerable right now, this is a document which we all know is tenuous at best, based upon market performance and those things. Commissioners, I want to allow for each of us to weigh in. There may be areas that you've, before we take a motion on the table, make sure that each commissioner is comfortable with what you've heard. Before you vote yea or nay, that you value those matters that have been placed before us. I have a couple of questions, but I will start with Commissioner Minor and work our way back around.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. County Administrator, I'd like to thank you and all of your staff for this excellent work yet again on this preliminary budget. 11 years in a row with no millage rate increase is a really good feat, and that is not by accident. That happens because of the diligent work of you and your staff. So thank you very much. Also, even though this budget is conservative because we're preparing for what may come in the future years and just making sure that we're in the best position possible for what might come economically in the next year or two. There's a lot to be very proud of in this budget. The $15 an hour minimum wage for our employees is commendable, and I think it shows folks in the public that we're taking a solid step forward on making sure our employees are earning a living wage. A lot of my key questions were addressed during our briefing that we had, but I did have one question. You had a slide about the increasing positions that were deemed not to be at the market rate level. And my question is, number one, that's just the right thing to do. But number two, I think that a good reason for you to investigate that and to look at Evergreen's analysis was to was to address issues of compression by the fact that we are increasing the starting salary among county employees. Am I correct in assuming that the main reason for us doing that is to make sure that we do avoid the issues of salary compression?
I think overall that's one of the issues, but it's also the ability to market and recruit employees. One of our fundamental reasons for doing the study is we were having, and we identified through HR broadly, it was becoming more challenging to make sure we were at starting salaries to bring people into the organization.
That's good. Thank you very much. And yeah, I mean, for the public that might be watching, I mean, we have the pleasure of working with our county staff on a regular basis, and we get to see it. We get to see how talented the folks here are, and our attrition is pretty low. I imagine our attrition is much lower than you might have in other counties, and I think part of that is because it's just a good organization. But keeping that talent is really important. So I think this is a really good step toward that. Mr. Chairman, I have no other questions. A lot of the stuff that I had questions about, number one, I found in the packet, and number two, I found during my briefing. So thank you very much, Mr. County Administrator and staff. I plan to support this budget. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, could you go on to Commissioner Welch for a second?
Sure.
Just getting one last note in order. Thank you.
Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vince and Alan, staff, I think that this is a responsible budget. Obviously, a lot of thought goes into it. I think some folks might look at it from a cursory glance and think, we're in an inflationary environment. I'm paying more for everything, and now my property taxes are going to go up. And that concerns me. But I think it's important that people understand the big picture when we're talking about those kinds of things. If the budget increase is 7.2% over last year's budget, and inflation is at 8.5% currently at the federal rate, so we are less than inflation in our budget increase. But at the same time, property values have gone up 9.2%. So we are a full 2% underneath the property value increases. So I think those are important to note. Excuse me. I also think it's important to understand exactly what the future may hold, the uncertainty that the future may hold, which really concerns me. A 7.2% or a $14 million property tax increase across the board concerns me when people are paying more for everything. But the future, I think, is what people really need to be aware of. The fact that you're not going to see 9.2% property value increases again for the foreseeable future. But at the same time, you could be on the verge of a recession nationally with higher costs across the board, and home purchasing at increased interest rates and all these things. And then to look to the next budget planning for the EMS and fire services, which you guys are now sort of projecting there will be some conversations that have to be had about how to adequately fund those things. I just think it's important for the general public to understand that half of the $14 million is going to the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office, a constitutional officer who we value and support, and we want to make sure that our deputies are paid an appropriate rate. And then you look at the other things that are being funded with this increase, whether it's a new 10-person ambulance crew or litter cleanup crew, which was one of my issues that was important, and I heard a lot from people who I may now hear from saying, why are we raising the budget? Because we want to make sure our roadways are clean as a strategic priority. And so I just think it's important for everybody to understand the big picture, but I also want to know that it does concern me that we have to do this. I think it's important to note that we've not raised the millage and that you guys and ladies put an enormous amount of effort into being very responsible fiscally with our money as taxpayers. I mean, you're looking at an increase of 5 positions at the county in this budget, with a decrease of 2, I believe it was at the library.
Which is 5 more, I think, than we've had in the previous, I don't know, maybe 5 budget cycles. So
Yeah.
that's an indication.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. I will support the budget. I do think it's responsible of you guys, especially considering what the future may hold. And so I just want the general public to know that. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to County Administrator and your staff, and to Assistant County Administrator. I've gone through the report, and I recognize that a tremendous amount of work, collaboration with your various departments in the county has gone into this particular document. It's very in-depth, and I don't profess to understand all of the aspects of what goes into developing a $316 million budget, but you all have broken it down into various areas where we can understand that it's a lot of hard work and working together that produced this particular document. And so initially, I just want to thank you all for this information. Prior to even being on the commission, I was in awe of how the county stepped up to the plate in the initial phases of the pandemic, and you use your fund balances and reserves to assist our businesses, which in turn assisted our citizens to maintain their jobs, keep their families going. And in reading this particular document, that same approach is evident here, where you all have incredible foresight, and you had incredible foresight prior to the pandemic, and I see it very evident in the document in our budget that's before. So I appreciate that. I believe that we are in good hands. We hopefully pray that we don't have another pandemic to the level that we've experienced the last couple of years. However, if we do, whether it's hurricane or health-related, I feel that the administration has taken care within this budget of so many variables until I believe that the health, safety, and welfare of the county and of our citizens is evident in what has been presented. I just want to specifically also tell you that I was elated to see that the county has addressed EMS concerns. I think most of us received correspondence from various members of EMS. And so I'm certainly supportive of additional staff in that area, additional vehicles in that area to serve our people as well. I, Mr. Chair, just am overall pleased with the potential for adopting this particular proposed budget. I'm pleased that we are concerned about our employees that work for the county, and that the fact that the proposed increase will impact a large percentage of the county employees. I believe the number was 87% of the employees for the county make less than $19 an hour. And so with the proposed raises, the vast majority of the county employees will see that increase. So I'm very pleased with that as well. So I just want to, Mr. Chair, just commend the county, Mr. Bradley, Ms. Wallace, the entire staff on this document, and I am in support of it and ready to support it, this
Okay.
first portion.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just need to check one last thing there. So, as others have said, I want to thank our staff and our partners. There's a lot of partnerships throughout this agenda. I know we're going to get to some of the others as we work through the food insecurity and other things like that. So you all do an incredible amount of work, but you also work closely with our constitutionals and with our community partners to find areas where we can collaborate, support their efforts, and frankly, draw down additional funding. And I think that's really fantastic. We can't do everything alone. And I think this budget, as always, but this one really reflects, in the last 2 years in COVID, how much those partnerships have been critical, and the ability to draw down additional funds is something that we're focused on. And I'm going to jump down in my notes here and say that the grants coordinator is something that, or that position, that was the correct title, correct? Grants coordinator, yes. That is a position that I think is critical now, and you all have done a good job in the different departments looking for additional funding and working with our partners, but having someone who's dedicated and focused to that. We send a lot of money outside of Leon County. As you said, Mr. County Administrator, we got a lot of property that's off the tax rolls. So finding any resources that we can bring back into the county to help all these various issues that we're facing, I think is really critical. So I'm glad you included that in this budget. Similarly, and I'm not going to go through the whole list, but the detention center, the other positions that you're adding, I think it is, I think Commissioner Walsh, you may have said it, it's a limited number of positions that we're adding, but they're very strategic and based on needs. And we have not done this very much, as you said, Mr. County Administrator, over the years. Reflecting on, Alan, your presentation on the use of fund balance, it is interesting to know, I mean, just to see that chart. I mean, we've talked about this year in, year out, but to see the full scope since 2010 and that we have not been at zero with the fund balance since 2010, that is incredibly significant. And if I remember correctly, coming into those years that we were dealing with the recession, we used the fund balance, but we also ended up cutting, maybe it was just over $60 million in up to 2014 or something like that, a number of positions. So we were very conservative during that time, dealing with the recession, again, not raising taxes and dealing with debt service. So this was long-term planning that really positioned us very well for this time period where we can get that fund balance down despite other challenges. Is that, you nodding, so that's a fair step? Did I get my numbers right there? Close to it, over 60 million? Yeah, that stuck out. Dealing with my first few budgets and having to cut every single year, that was quite an education in how careful we have to be, and that to do that at the same time as the long-term planning really was critical. So I appreciate that very much. Others have made comments about the pay study, and we talked about that at length during our briefing. As Commissioner Cummings, you mentioned, having 87% of our workforce $19 and under is significant, and those adjustments will impact. But I'm also glad, Commissioner Minor, you asked a question about the compression, because I think it's, as Alan said, the retention and recruitment. You said market and recruitment, but it's also retaining talent, right? Because there's a lot of other employers that are public and private that are dealing with labor challenges. So we got to be able to retain good employees as well. I think that the $15 an hour minimum is incredible progress by this board over the last few years and our staff to make this work. I did want to note that, and I'm glad you included this, that the MIT study for 2022, if I have this right, showed the living wage for Leon County was $16.18. Is that correct? Okay. So in thinking about this, there is a ceiling. There's a limit to what any public or private entity can do for a starting minimum wage. I mean, we see the budget, implications here. I think this really speaks to the need for diversifying our job market and having more high wage and entry level positions that don't need a college degree and others, but higher wage and people can advance their careers. I took note at the recent Chamber of Commerce Prosperity Summit on affordable housing. There was a really interesting comparison of the average wage that you need to pay the average rent in town, and it was $19. That's how much you need to make to pay our average rent, but our average wage, which is much lower than that. So this isn't just a Leon County government issue. This is, all employers within Leon County, and I think there's a lot more we can do collectively because we're not going to be able to continue to push the minimum wage up, right? So I just wanted to give that a note because that touches on a lot of our economic development work. Ms. County Administrator, did you have a comment on that? No. Oh, you were turning off the microphone. Okay. Don't want to comment on that. I got it. But I mean, it's transparent. I mean, you included those numbers, and I really do appreciate that because we need to see where we are, and there may be other strategies we can put in place, and working through OEV and others to really increase the jobs and the wages that are available throughout the community. Fire service fee, I'm going to look towards our vice chair for this. I think in about every budget workshop we have, we touch on fire service fee at some point. I'm glad they're doing a rate study. I'm very glad we've been able to defer any increase in the fire service fee and understanding some concerns about leaning in too much because this is a city of Tallahassee issue. They run the fire department. They're going to let us know what the plans are. I would just say to my colleagues, and I'm going to say this a couple times today, this will be my last budget cycle with the County Commission. So I'm reflecting a lot on those policy issues going forward. This is one that I think, while the county doesn't have a say in exactly what that program is going to be for expanding services through TFD, it is something that the County Commission should have detailed reports on. We should know and understand what new fire stations are coming online, what the city's plans are for the fire service fee, because we have to justify that for our residents in the unincorporated area as well. So I just offer that to my colleagues that in the future and with this rate study next year, hopefully we can get a good understanding of what the city is planning to do and what, justifies that, I assume, whatever fee we're going to have, it could be an increase. I only have two other comments here. This may be a more minor thing for most folks than some of these other issues, but I'm glad you included the archaeological cultural review position for the planning department. This is something that has come up at our board several times. I'm glad that the city is willing to work with us on a position within the planning department, but my understanding is they're still not interested in having this position cover the development review. They'd rather leave that in the posture of having developers, builders hire a consultant and do that work themselves. This is a step in the right direction, but I'm still hearing from those in the industry that it would be good to have some of that review in-house, and I appreciate our staff for being really willing to look into those issues. I do hope the city will reflect on that and work with us on including this position within growth management in addition to the planning department. So those are some questions there. Glad you went over EMS. Others have touched on that. My last question is the gas tax holiday. We always note the revenue that we bring in through gas tax, through communications, through others. This has come up in some of our regional planning council meetings and statewide meetings. The governor has approved, I believe, a month-long gas tax holiday for October. And the president is also now considering, it was just reported today, that there may be a very short-term federal gas tax holiday. But for the state end, my understanding is to fill that budget gap left because the gas tax funds transportation and FDOT, they will use some of the infrastructure bill money to cover that gap. That was Secretary Perdue presented to our Florida Regional Planning Council Board a couple weeks ago, and that is in discussion. So that breaks on two issues. One, we may not see as much new money come into the districts with FDOT. We talk about this at CRTPA and for transportation projects. But for our local gas tax, my question is, the gas tax holiday in October, that will also impact our local tax, or it will not? It does not. It is just the state portion of that gas tax. So we will not see any revenue reductions on that small portion. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you, clarifying that. That will be at least a little something, even if we see further reduction, or we don't see as much money coming into FDOT. That's it. Thank you very much for a robust agenda. Look forward to continuing the discussion, Mr. Chair.
You know, Commissioner Dozier, this being your last rodeo of sorts on preliminary budget, I know you wanted to squeeze it in, so I was feeling you a little bit on that. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to tell staff, job well done as always. Never cease to impress your foresight on what's coming with the recession, the way you budgeted this year to make sure that we are adequate in the out years, your use of fund balance in the past. We're very lucky to have the administration that we have at Leon County government. But this is not something that you hadn't seen before. Back when me and Commissioner Dozier first got here, very similar situation. And when the housing bubble happened, you did the same exact thing, and you're copying that model here. And so I appreciate the fact that you always put us in position to look extremely smart and extremely financially responsible. Let the public know this is by no accident. This is what our staff does and what they will continue to do year after year. So I look forward to supporting the budget. And I look forward to continuing to work with you all and create these amazing budgets that should be imitated across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. I've shared with Vince and Alan that when or should they leave county government, I will be leaving with them. I will not be around to answer the questions of what have happened to county government in the aftermath of their vacating. So echoing the sentiments of commissioners, thank you all. Thank all of you. And I will be leaving. I don't know if it's Gladys Knight said she was leaving on the midnight train, but let me know what time and I'm going to. The food insecurity report, Breaking Bread Together, I'm very, very proud of this report that comes in with our neighborhood dinner and conversation on tackling food insecurity. That right there was very, very special, very unique, a poignant effort, creative, to reach out, to hear back from our community. I believe there were 9 various meetings from the New Mount Zion, Tabernacle, the Grand Ballroom at FAMU, Bond, Community Walker, Fort Lincoln, all of that, some others. This doesn't have a big dollar value, you know, but it resonates with our community. And I think among the things that, as we're just holding discourse this morning, one of the things which seemed to have been a shock to some in our community was the public's response to the $27 million which Blueprint we voted to give to Florida State. And I've been questioned and spoke to several people who were very surprised. But I believe that when you are doing these under the radar outreaches, when you're making contact, such as what this county has done through PPE, emergency money fundings, all of these things, you have what's called a relationship with a community, and you hear. Now, saying those things brings me to back to Commissioner Dozier's comments about a development review. And under attachment 10, under the Central Library Initiative on page 204, there is a civic and community engagement element which would serve as a vibrant, and I'm reading, active hub of civic discourse and participant democracy, building relationships and bridging gaps in all segments of the community. It's what have occurred in two previous matters. In particular, do I still have angst about what happened with Horton and the Woodville community? And staff, we need not believe that there's a universal sameness in the civic IQ of our community. We're smart enough to go out and listen to 9 different communities and have bread and break bread and let them talk. That's getting on the front end. Our development review, we need a person designated that when the largest, I'm talking about the single largest builder of homes in the United States of America, steps into your Ukraine boundaries, and there is no conversation. We need a community engagement person in the review process, because if under the city's idea, you hire an independent consultant to do that, well, we can't assume that all consultants give a damn. It just simply not all give a damn about what Woodville knows, or it could be Fort Braden, or it could be Miccosukee, or it could be some other place. So what I am failing to see in our growth management lack of process is there's no person who is reaching out and the failure to take into what our data from the census shows. Our census data, the census tracts show that there are educational differences, there are income differences, literacy differs in regions. And I am suggesting that when the largest developer in the world is coming to your neighborhood and nobody from Leon County government gave a damn, they care. And of course, everything was done right. Everything. All the T's were crossed, all the I's were dotted. But y'all, that's insufficient to address the sensitive areas of our community where census data suggests there's a difference. So we need, and I'm suggesting and hopeful that this board will recognize, we've got to tighten up when the Hortons of the world come to your community, or those people on the other side where Amazon came into. They had enough wherewithal to kind of gather themselves and put up a little dust. But engagement, I like this word. I like this, civic and community engagement. And it's demonstrated in what Shinkton's office did. Our office did in these central pages of what you shared. That's what we got to do. I'm so hopeful that in the coming year, staff, that we can tighten up and leave no community behind. And in particular, when those costs are what some say affordable housing at $300,000, there are question marks. I'm very pleased with attachment number 7 that comes, and I don't know who wrote it, but you all know I like good writing. And this is writ pretty good, and it reads very easy. And I like the pink highlight of where you're proposing policy modification. This is very good. But I got to tell you all, might sound a little crazy, but how does autopsies go down by $2,000 something with the cost of it? I don't want to, receive the benefit, but I noted for those who might that autopsies, I think is attachment 13 or 12 or 13, at 13, that the autopsy fee currently is $49.94, but effective 10/1, it's going to $22.95. That's a real inducement to check out and get a break on your way out. But we have a $2,700 reduced autopsy fee. And out of all of the things which Vince indicated in his opening remarks, that gas is going up and food is going up and these things, why is autopsies going down? Can anybody I'm just nerdy to that.
And I'll let you answer that, Alan. I was just going to say for Commissioner Proctor, that one's just for you. It's only going down for you. No.
Thank you.
No, Alan will answer that.
Actually, Commissioner, I don't want to make it that we are having income. If you look actually at the top of that page, Commissioner, that same page you're on, attachment 13, there's 2 autopsy fees. One is the one we pay. If you go on that attachment 13, so the autopsy fee at the top of the page, our fee actually is going up by $250. The one you saw at the bottom of the page is a private autopsy fee. And based on discussions with the proposed interim medical examiner, they felt that fee could be reduced. So our fee actually will be going up, but those who are using the services in a private capacity, the fee will be going down considerably.
So why does the private get a break?
If you look at the column above, Commissioner, the private fee was basically 2.5 times the rate previously. The incoming medical examiner felt it was appropriate to bring that back more in line with what he charges us.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. All right, thank you. It is exactly, we will get the exact cost for our fee as well as the public's autopsy fee have been equalized. It's amazing that we had that variation from the giddy up. That's just amazing. That's truly amazing. I don't know how you. Then, staff, I would like to say, commissioners, also, that I looked at the lighting thingy, and I did not know Crawfordville Road from the Wilson Green community down to the Publix on Crawfordville Road, and it's been several years that this commissioner has sought every reasonable way I knew how to ask for lights on that corridor. You will find that the city limit in the city has a sign just across the street from Wilson Green where it stops its reach of lights and public lights. And it has it all the way to Wilson Green, but they refuse to go an additional inch. This is the area where 8 precincts are excluded from voting in the city, and all of them are customers of the city's utility services. I would like for staff in this coming year, somehow or other, since it's a county road, we need your help, and I hope that that's a priority. They've only been asking this for 1,000 years. Finally, in specific things that I've looked at is the Lake Munson problems. And I'm not an ecologist, not even an environmentalist, and I don't hold membership in anything environmental. But I have to believe that the state of Lake Munson's water is indicative of water beneath the ground, groundwater, all things water. I can't believe that it's that which is on top, which eventually seeps beneath, is all jacked up, and then that which flows below ain't jacked up. We got a problem, and Horton ought be put on stop, on pause, until that problem, that whole area, can be examined for its ecological health. The area needs to be reviewed. How do we help? How do we make that happen to find out the status of our water? Is that something the state of Florida does, the DEP, or is it because where it's located, it's just us? It really don't matter. What options do we have to make Munson and the underground water a priority?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, you'll be getting a comprehensive report July, Ken, is that at your July meeting on Lake Munson, and at that time, again, it will be very exhaustive and it will provide details on all the issues that you've raised and recommendations as well. We've studied it extensively. We continue to. You may recall that we had a study group not too many years ago convened for some time and who came back with very significant recommendations to you. We'll be able to talk about the short and long-term issues, the health of the lake, as well as mitigation that we've done relative to the conveyance systems that feed into Lake Munson.
Thank you. And how can we be assured that we're looking at a community engagement person with big developments that are occurring, such as Horton, and that communities that may be outside of the 1,500 square foot notification, we need that person because we're doing too many projects and we're assuming and allowing for our citizens who may not understand to, how can we bring that back and look at that real soon, Vince?
We've already got your direction to bring that back from a previous commission meeting on expanding the notification requirements and the additional engagement on some of those larger scale.
And that engagement is at the ground level of what Shinkton has done with the food insecurity. It's that physical face-to-face explaining la, 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 la. All right. Commissioners, I appreciate your input. Is there another round of inquiry? Commissioner Dozier.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt your closing there, Mr. Chair.
I'm good. Go
Okay.
ahead.
The county administrator just addressed this from your first comments about the community engagement when we see large-scale developments. I will take a note on your comments about the those who live in the vicinity of Amazon. While some of them may have had the wherewithal to track the process, because it was a quasi-judicial proceeding and it overlapped with our economic incentives, there was still a limited amount of information that we could bring into that process because of the rules that we have that are existing. In a situation like Amazon or one of these other developments that came up last week in our comp plan, there may be issues that we cannot necessarily associate with the developer, say the traffic impacts to Thornton Road or Southwood Plantation Road or Woodville, but it's still something I believe our commission, city commission, should reflect on. So I am glad that the full board, we approved the agenda item to look at our notice, and it was looking at large scale amendments and expanding that notice beyond 1,000 feet. Is that correct? Okay, so that's coming back to us. And the workshop that we discussed last week at our commission meeting, again, I know we had a 3-hour conversation about those amendments, but from my position, the process is set and the applicant gets to follow whatever rules are in the process at that time. Should we want to make changes or require more information or more community engagement, we need to make those changes to the policy and the process. And for the county administrator, I appreciate your conversation last week. I know you've already engaged with our planning department director and looking at some of the various options we may have to get additional information, do more engagement through the comp plan process and other development process. So I'm glad we're not going to project forward of what we can and can't do. We got to wait for that information. But Mr. Chair, I think it's a critical issue you bring up, and I'm glad we're going to work on it. And quite frankly, Mr. County Administrator, this is in the motion, right? That whether the city decides to join us or not, we're going to have that workshop come the fall. Is that correct?
That was in the motion, yes.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing I was going to mention, Mr. Chair, because you tied this in, I do think, and I know we're going to get to the item on the food insecurity, but the openness to collaboration, the public engagement with the meetings, I mean, whether it's that issue or others, it's really critical. And the fact that we're willing to go out and have these deep conversations and do the policy development is significant. That's where I'll leave my comments for now. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One thing I've got to bring up, so I received correspondence from Frenchtown Rising about sponsorship. I believe that we have money in our contingency to handle this current year. The amount was, I think, $25,000. Explain to me how we can I think what I would like to do is see if we can take it out of this year's contingency, or should we look at trying to include it in this budget, Mr. Administrator?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, if that's something that the board wants to fund, I would recommend utilizing your contingency for that purpose. And another policy consideration of the board with respect to that particular line item would be, it has been challenging to fund it through that activity, that event, series of events through tourism, because it just doesn't generate. It's a very active community program, but it doesn't generate the bed nights required for the tourism fund. Again, I throw this out not as a suggestion, but for something for the board that you could consider in something like that. That is, for lack of a better term, a little bit of a one-off. If the board wished to consider whether you want that to come back in next year's budget as a line item for some of those line items that you have that don't fit neatly into one of our existing programs, that's something that the board considers. So maybe, again, if the board wished to consider that, it would be a two-stepper. Maybe this year, if you have that request pending, this year contingency, perhaps at an amount determined by the board, and then perhaps you may, based on that approval, it would be something that we might bring back as a line item for your consideration in next year's budget. Again, just trying to provide the options for the board.
Could it be considered in this, in whatever motion is made here today, or would it need to be an agenda item for next month's meeting?
We could do it now, or it could be a part of your ratification item.
Okay.
If we get the board's direction to do that.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if you're ready for a motion, so I'm going to wait for your key on that. But I want the board to, I want to let the board know that I intend to ask for that $25,000 to come out of contingency this year, and then ask for a budget discussion item for next year's budget, looking at that $25,000 being placed as a line item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, on that point, could I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Mr. County Administrator, you just mentioned that it's challenging to fund through TDC because of the bed nights. But we know FAMU football games generate a substantial amount of tourism and visitors. So it was my understanding that Frenchtown Rising has been collecting that data and has applied for funding through the TDC or Visit Tallahassee. Is that correct? Is there, I will just add to that before Ken, you jump in, that I know we have worked with other organizations kind of in the emerging category that do events to help them better track the visitors so that they do qualify for additional funding. Is that something that we could do?
Yes, Commissioner. Frenchtown Rising did receive tourism funds last year. I don't think they've received it in the amount that they're requesting, and that's
Right.
due to the room nights generated.
Okay, but my question is, are we confident that we've given us, that we're tracking those room nights as robustly as we might do for some other events, because we know the football games do generate a lot of tourism and a lot of room nights?
The football games do generate the room nights. It's the events that coincide with football games.
Of course, there may be some disconnect there. My question is there anything else we could do to have a conversation about ensuring we are tracking as many as we can so they could qualify for as much? I'm not opposed to the motion you may make in the future, Mr. Vice Chair. I think that's fine to explore the line item or others, particularly if they cannot qualify for TDC dollars because they don't have the room nights. I think that is a fine alternative, so I would support that motion. But if there's anything we could do to help them track the numbers for room nights in a better way, in a more robust way, they may qualify for more funding. That's just a question. So do you think there is more or a conversation that we could have about that?
Absolutely, always open to it, and we were expecting them to apply this year for funding.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
very good. Any other commissioners weigh in? Okay. My concern with that, Ms. Vice Chair, is simply that I know it's an open venue, public, but if I happen to be, or it happens that a campaign opponent of mine is on the stage that I have equal access, I know that we're not funding a political event, but the exposure of that event to hundreds of people, it all include the chairman as well. So I'm just saying what I'm saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I would hope that the organizers of the event will provide as equal time and equal access to any candidate.
Because if the mayor is down there, I want Kristen Dozier on exposed as well.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. Okay, I'm gonna pass the gavel now to the vice chair and like to offer a motion. Commissioners, I'd like to offer, is on page 39, options 1 through 7. In addition to those options that have been recommended, I'd like to propose that we have a 5% across the board raise for all of our employees, administrative and non-administrative across the board, 5%. Recognize that our staff is already included and we have potentially adopted the $15 increase. And in this motion that we would, the performance based approach, we would suspend it, allow it to rest this year in favor of the 5% across the board for all of our employees. And I take that motion in the spirit of our county administrators opening comments to us that gas, grits, groceries, everything has gone up, and our employees, as a matter of moral choice on our part, as well as a professional choice and decision on our part, that I would like to see this board honor their service. That's my motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chairman's made a motion for options 1 through 7 as modified by himself to include a 5% increase average across the board for county employees. Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner Cummings. Mr. Chair, I asked earlier about that amendment to the motion to add the $25,000 contingency from $25,000 from contingency this year for Frenchtown Rising, and to add a budget discussion item for the following year. Will you accept that amendment? If not, I'll just ask for it after the motion's over.
No, it's a great amendment. I'm surprised Commissioner Dozier didn't say something about its process. And certainly the person asking is a Leon County Budget Director, knows the process. But I see the benefit of the project, and I understand it, have attended it, and I think it speaks for itself. Let's support it. We don't need that, so I accept that.
Thank you. So, second amendment being that the $25,000 come from contingency, this current year contingency, and a budget discussion item be added for next year, $25,000 for Frenchtown Rising. Commissioner Cummings?
Just for clarification,
ma'am.
Mr. Vice Chair, so with Frenchtown Rising, we're proposing $25,000 this year from our general fund, and then it become a budget item next year? Is
Yes,
that-
ma'am. So it's contingency. So we got about 45,000 or so left in contingency. So we would take 25,000 from this year's budget contingency to go towards next year.
Okay.
And then in the budget discussion in 2023, we would discuss the 25,000 being a line item in that budget.
Well, I would second that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Thank
Point
you.
of clarification.
Yes, sir.
Vice Chair saying next year is October 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So in terms of the use of this money, there may be need for its use inside of September 30th and back. So how do we, that we're not
No,
cutting
so
off?
so that the use would come out of the current year budget.
Right.
So the $25,000 is already there in contingency.
Okay, and-
So we can pull that out today, and it'd be used for the 2022-2023 football season for Fridgetown Rising.
Okay,
So then for the 2023-2024, we would have a line budget discussion item for that budget for our next budget.
And we're going to get it in on time before our workshop date.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I appreciate it. Just a couple questions regarding the chairman's amendment of 5% across the board. First of all, I need to have some questions answered before I consider whether or not I'm going to vote for that amendment. But first and foremost, I'm hoping the chairman will accept a friendly amendment to that amendment that would omit the county commission salaries. I will not vote for a salary increase for myself.
It doesn't count. We don't count.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Solve that problem. Question for the county administrator. With the chairman's amendment, how would we handle this for those employees that have reached the upper limit of those ranges for their positions?
Mr. Administrator? Alan?
If I may, Commissioners, on the upper ranges, the pay study actually recommended moving not just the minimums, but the maximums as well, Commissioner.
Okay.
So I can't say with complete certainty, but I believe we don't have any positions that will be capped at this point in time. But I can't say with certainty there might be a few, even with the expansion of the ranges, might still be. But by and large, that upper end of the range has allowed us that ability for those people to continue to grow in their incomes.
And if I could just add on to that, there is an existing policy that allows, even if you are at that place, for you to receive the one-time merit performance bonus based on the approval of the county administrator. In those, again, they're very limited cases.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, on point. And then I'll go back
Mr.
to
Vice Chair, yes. In attachment 7 on that study, I got a little choked. I don't know if you did, Vince, but did it not say that administrators would be curtailed at 3% in the pink writing?
I think that was the annual movement of the pay ranges, Commissioner, that we bring back to you every year. That 3% you saw, that we would cap the 3% at CPI annually.
Right.
Right now, we would bring that back to you as part of the budget cycle if we wanted to move the range for all employees every year or not, depending on.
No. This specifically said administrators. I got choked on that.
Okay.
I remember it so well. Attachment 7.
I think are you looking at attachment 7, page 12 of 25?
Yeah.
Yeah, where the maximum increase will not exceed. The administration of Commissioner, that's the term we're using is used differently. It's the administration of the plan. We're using it more as a verb. We're saying that's how we're administering the pay plan, not the administrative staff. Right. So if you look at page 12 of 25, if you look under that section title, what we're saying is we have pay ranges that will have a minimum and a maximum for every employee in their pay grade. What we're saying here is annually we would bring to the board as part of the budget process, are we going to move that minimum and maximum of the pay grades?
Well, I agree with Commissioner Cummings. Some of this is muffusing. It's beyond confusing. It's muffusing to me.
Apologize about the term.
Mr. Chairman, yeah.
I just saw that
You're-
3% in pink.
No, I hear you.
got
I hear
some.
you. Yeah, you're, and it's because sort of in the nitty gritty of pay study policy, what all this says is that, what all that means is instead of waiting, as we told you before, where we went many years without a pay study, this would allow us to move those, rather than do a pay study every year and pay consultants and this would allow us to move based on market conditions, pay ranges up to 3% per year without doing a full-blown pay study.
Okay, I have no other inquiries. Ms. Vice Chairman, if you want to carry this motion, I think Commissioner Dozier and Commissioner Cummings wants to another bite on the apple.
All right. Any other commissioners want to speak? If not, we're going to a vote after Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Dozier?
Yeah.
You first, then Commissioner Cummings.
Commissioner Cummings, you go first.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Meyer, you were done, correct?
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you very much.
I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate it. I'm done for now. I might come back a little bit later, but thank you very much.
I tell you what, I'll come back to you at the end just in case, and then we'll go to a vote. Commissioner Cummings, Commissioner Dozier, Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just have a question for the county administrator. Those positions that have been determined that might be below the average, that will be will receive the 3% increase based on Commissioner Proctor's motion. If it passes, the 5% across the board, they would still be eligible for that 5%, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Dozier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions here. First on the, I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chair, first on the Chairman's amendment to do across the board 5%. Justification is there. Costs have gone up. It is a challenging time for a lot of folks. We've said it before, a significant number of our folks do not, or it was 87% at $19 or less, right? So this could be very significant. But I believe if we do across the board at 5%, that's going to change the budget allocation that we have contemplated. Is that correct? Because it is an average of 3%. Some people get more, some people get less. Is that correct?
That's correct. It would be the difference between the 3% that's contemplated and 5%, which would be, what's the number, Alan? Yeah, about $1 million, 2 or 3, including the constitutional officers, which we assume, again, we would then fund out of fund balance. We would take that from 0 to 1.2 or 3, and of course, at the board's direction, which would be ratified at your budget ratification, should you choose to do that.
So the priorities for this board, I mean, if this is a priority, we move forward. Just wanted to ask that question because we got to do it with eyes wide open. And I think it hits us in two ways. One, we just saw the presentation on the fund balance and how giddy Alan is to get it to 0 this year for the first time since 2010. Which is, it is a good goal, but the fund balance is there to cover other costs, and we can use it for other priorities should we need to. So I'm not saying that's off the table. I think it's something I want to reflect on, and I think it's good for us to know where that funding would come from, of course. But the other factor is we've got other items on our agenda today, other things in the budget discussion that, if I'm correct, Mr. County Administrator, should they be approved, we'd also have to take them from fund balance. Is that correct? Because we have... Or
direct me to provide a list of cuts, or the board could provide cuts to make it. So those are really your two big options, yeah.
So we either give up some of the things that we're looking at in the FY23 budget, make additional cuts, or we load up on fund balance. So from my perspective, I could see using some of our fund balance for some priorities that are unique to this year, critical for this year, given inflation, given other things. But I'm not going to be comfortable looking at major cuts to what we've got. I think the positions that have been recommended, just for example, all meet good, priorities and are all necessary, from housing to food insecurity to the detention center, all of these types of things. So to go forward with the 5% across the board, from my perspective, it's going to limit other options we have for other types of projects. And I'm not making a judgment call right now, but we're taking this vote before we get to those other discussion items. And it may be that in the ratification, we could see, and I think you'd bring this to us anyhow, Mr. County Administrator, what that implication is for any of the choices we make today, and whether or not cuts or how much fund balance would be required. Is that correct, Ms. County Administrator? You would bring that?
That's correct, but we'll make sure you also know that prior to any motions that you make today. And obviously, what's on the table very clearly would be an additional 1.2 to 1.3 in terms of a use of fund balance.
So if we pass this motion now for, I mean, I'm going to say it's a little more than discussion purposes, but if we walk with the chairman on the 5%, we're going to see that full implication at the end of the workshop today, and we'll have opportunities to talk about it in the future and reflect on it if it presents some challenges.
It would be part of your ratification.
Okay. All right.
All right, so, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The last thing is, I neglected to mention earlier that something I've been concerned about for a while is the classifications and the ceiling and how that may impact retention, recruitment. And I'm really glad to see, and we talked about it extensively in our briefing, that there could be a annual adjustment to that classification so that people don't hit that cap and know that they could have some career advancement, whatever that might be. But one thing you said, I think it was Alan, I'm not sure, periodic review. I mean, we haven't done the pay study in a long time. We understand why, but do we have a general periodic review kind of idea for the future, or do you anticipate doing this kind of rate study every 2 to 3 years, as you said was typical for other counties? I'm just curious.
We would look at doing this when we can in the future, again, based on funding availability. But like you said, the ability to raise those ranges will help mitigate that pressure that builds up.
But even without the study, you would be reflecting on that annually, bringing the board back information, and should another study be necessary, that can come up in conversation.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr.
Thank
Chairman,
you. On point, and then Commissioner Minor.
We can't increase those rates without the study. That study is needed in order to validate our raising those rates. Is that accurate? Or we can do that without the study?
You could do it without a study, but we use a study for these purposes so that we have an outside objective look into our pay range comparable to a large market. I think we used 19 comparables on this one. So again, you can, and that's contemplated in the budget. So that's, again, for your consideration.
I just kind of want to, I'm not trying to push back on Commissioner Dozier's thoughts, but I'm wanting to seek clarity. When I got this book and went through it, I didn't see any blood leaking. I didn't see any red spots. I took, what we're doing is laser surgery. We're not gutting and cutting anything. And to the extent that her projection is that we're cutting and gutting, that's not my perception. And if what she's saying is more accurate than what I have perceived, can you walk me from a different angle? I thought that this was still a bloodless, no stains, no pain type of.
No, and I'll say from our standpoint, given the current inflationary condition that we find ourselves in, that use of fund balance is not something that we would object to. You know, we would always be willing to provide guidance and recommendations. If that was the case, we wouldn't be shy about that. That level of fund balance is not something that we would have any issues with for that purpose in a 1 year in isolation type of environment. I think what Commissioner Dozier was saying, and I will say she'll always be quick. She won't hesitate to correct me, because I think that what she was saying is any additional use of fund balance that you might consider today could get to a level that may or may not be acceptable to the board, but I'll defer.
Okay. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, no correction necessary. You are right, but let me be a little more specific. considerations of Lake Hall, of Schoolhouse, of other things like that, those are not contemplated in the budget in the numbers that we're looking at in this first item. So other choices we may make today, people may have, the commissioners may have other ideas that they want to add in, like Frenchtown Rising. Each one of these things adds up. So I just wanted to ask those questions about the full impact of the 5%, because if that's $1.2 million or $3 million, is that what you said? That's certainly something we can cover by fund balance, and I appreciate, Ms. County Administrator, what you said, that would be an acceptable, use of that fund balance. But I don't want to see those fund balance numbers escalating too much. We've worked really hard to get them down to zero.
Right. Well,
So that is what I was saying, Mr. Chair, is there's always going to be choices in this, difficult choices, and I don't want to get into the conversation about the other items, but I thought that was important to bring in right now.
Just that the commission knows where my comfort level lies in the 1.2, 1.3 million. Alan, what is next year's, are we projecting 6% increase in next year's revenue?
As of 10:45 today, Commissioner, we believe next year we'll return to normal levels. Yes, could we get 5 or 6% property tax growth? Possibly, based on what we've seen for the first half of this year. But again, I want to be very hesitant in that there's a full 6 months to come, and I can't predict where the housing market's going to go. But at this moment in time, we're thinking
We know
should get some
interest rates are going up, but we also know that property values are going up.
Correct.
That is where my comfort level with the 1.2, 1.3, I was aware of next year's revenues exceeding 6% or so where we are today.
I tell you what, I have enjoyed this conversation,
Thank you.
but I'm going to go to Commissioner Minor. I do have a question, though. Alan, where are we at percentage-wise in our fund balance levels?
We're at about 23%.
And what is our policy?
15. We basically want to keep a 15% minimum. So we're at 23% minimum. Yeah,
we have a maximum?
30%.
Let me ask you this. If we, let's say, took another $2 million out, where would that place us, just roundabout percentage-wise?
We'd be in the 20.5%.
Right. So, though I do enjoy this conversation, my point is that even before we get to next year, we're at a 23% fund balance that's got a limit of 15%. If we needed to use more fund balance, we can do that. Anticipating what Commissioner Prater said, even a level increase, or if we go back to the regular increases in revenue that we've seen in the past, we're still a little bit higher. So it gives me a little more comfort in what you're talking about, Commissioner Prater. Go ahead, Alan.
And one other thing I want to point out, of course, is based on the type of expenditures we use fund balance for example, for the raises, that becomes a recurring expense.
Right.
Theoretically, the fund balance, ideally, we're trying to align it with one-time expenses the best we can. But again, it's appropriate for this time, but as that starts growing, we have to start to absorb back in that recurring. It gets more challenging.
Right. So they even makes me even more comfortable what I'm talking about, because these things that we're talking about are coming up later in the budget would be one-time expenses, correct?
Part of it, yes.
Yes. And so that's traditionally like what we like to use our fund balance for, correct? Yeah. So I think it puts me in a position of, okay, I can see where we are in this 5%, and even look at the other things, thinking that, I have a limit there of percentage-wise of where I want to look at fund balance getting down to, and if 2 million is that number and it only takes us to 21%, it makes me a little more comfortable. You have not spoken yet, so I am going to go to Commissioner Welch, and then I'm going to finish up with Commissioner Minor. Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Just real quickly, we're talking about percentages in the fund balance. What is the real number? We're talking about numbers we're talking about spending millions of dollars. What's the number so people can understand it? How much is in the reserves?
$39 million.
$39 million, which is currently 3%
of our general and final
Gotcha.
of our general fund operation.
So $39 million, and we're talking about spending potentially 1.3 to make this a 5% across the board pay increase. Is that a recurring expense?
Yes.
Yes, and that would continue to come out of fund balance?
We would
convert.
If I may, we would try through the budget process in the future to get that back in.
Add it back in.
Through
okay.
our recurring revenue.
So then if we look at Lake Hall Schoolhouse this afternoon, it's another $1 million potentially. You're talking about the difference between 39 million and 30 6.5 million,
37 million.
37 million. I think it equates in my mind better that way as with the public potentially. So thank you. That's it.
Commissioner Meyer, you get to finish us out.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Good discussion. I think Commissioner Dozier's points about, and the concerns that she has about using a non-recurrent, what is designed to be a non-recurring fund balance for non-recurring expenses, for recurring expenses like this across the board, 5% increase, that's a cause for concern. It's just generally not good accounting principles. But the chairman has a very good point. I'm going to support this. Once we actually have come back for the ratification of these items, later we'll take a deeper dive on this once the staff has had a chance to take a look at this, how it affects. We've already had discussion about it, but I want to see the agenda item come back. But I think it's definitely the intent of the amendment is a good one, and I will support this as well as the other amendment and options 1 through 7. Thank you very much, as Vice Chair.
All right, thank you. So we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor made by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Cummings, of 1 through 7 as amended by myself and the chair, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. We'll move to the next item. Mr. Chair, would you like to gavel back? You want me to carry you?
Ms. Vice Chair, I asked if we could have a little recess. The chairman needs to step off dais, and maybe the rest of us as well.
I understand. I'll give us 10 minutes. We'll come back in at 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, if you'll come back, make my quorum. Nope. Not on one. All right. Looks like we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Commissioner Dozier is coming, and Commissioner Chairman is over there. Mr. Administrator, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. And on the next few budget discussion items, Commissioners, just feel free to slow me down or speed me up, however you want to do it. Also know that while we've got the staff here at the table, of course, we've got staff that are associated with each of these items in the room with us who will be happy to bring up and provide more detail, anything you like. But let me start, Commissioners, on item 2, which is the neighborhood meetings addressing food insecurity. Commissioners, in support of the approved strategic initiative, this item provides a comprehensive report and a series of recommendations addressing food insecurity. And I realize you've already discussed this today, but as the chairman said, we engaged nearly 300 residents participating in 9 meetings held in targeted neighborhoods in May and June. And Commissioners, I know a lot of you were there and attending those meetings. The meetings were held in collaboration with Second Harvest, the City of Tallahassee, and the Children's Services Council, which was a great collaboration that we had there. Second Harvest and other agencies, Commissioners, provide numerous existing programs focused on food insecurity. And that was one of the themes that we had throughout this, was that we really do have an awful lot that's happening. And we do recognize, however, that we still have a lot of people in targeted neighborhoods suffering from food insecurity. But it's important to note that we have 135 organizations operating soup kitchens, food pantries, and residential feeding programs. We have specific programs targeted toward seniors, toward kids. We have backpack programs and kids cafe programs. We have transportation offered by Big Bend 211 and Dial a Ride for anyone who needs a ride to a food pantry, and the list goes on. Commissioners, again, I know that many of you, like I said, attended, like myself, and you heard some of the takeaways, but what we found when you boil it all down was that residents are unaware of a significant number of available resources that already exist in the community that address food insecurity, again, including free transportation to grocery stores and neighborhood pantries. And the solutions identified by the participants and the partners require a collective, coordinated response, an enhanced response, long-term commitment and investment to engage and empower neighborhoods. And we've got the way we propose to do that based on this feedback from the community, including in partnership with the city and CSE to establish a Trusted People Neighborhood Engagement Steering Committee, conducting annual programming events that will directly engage neighborhood leaders and stakeholders, doubling the number of Second Harvest neighborhood empowerment events by assisting, and this is the county assisting, in the purchase of a mobile pop-up pantry, which is a really big deal and we can talk more about, participating in the health department's Grow Leon initiative, which we've included information on, and establishing a neighborhood engagement and community partnerships manager position, someone who's, for the lack of a better term, waking up every morning thinking about how to engage the community on these issues. Lastly, Commissioners, I want to recognize the hard work of Shinkton Lammy and Abby Sanders in conducting these meetings and developing these recommendations along with our partners. Commissioners, again, happy to answer any questions you might have. We're recommending options 1 through 5. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. There are a lot of things in today's workshop to be proud of and to be excited about, and this is one of them. And for me personally, this is at the top tier of things to be really interested in and very proud of our county for tackling. There are a lot of ways to address poverty. Affordable housing, increasing access to health care, raising incomes. One of the best ways in terms of being cost-benefit analysis is food insecurity. I know this from working at Second Harvest. I'm no longer there, but we saw firsthand the effects of what food insecurity can have on children. Children go to school hungry in this county, many of them, and they are unable to learn. And there's nothing more tragic than having a child not be able to take advantage of their academic opportunities simply because they're too hungry to sit in a classroom and learn. We see seniors that suffer from healthcare problems simply because they don't have a nutritious meal on a regular basis. So this is real, and tackling food insecurity is one of the most effective ways for us to help folks that are struggling with poverty lift themselves up out of poverty. For those that may not be aware, this whole thing started many months ago, about a year ago, I think, when this county commission supported the idea of identifying the 10 most hungry neighborhoods in this county, working in partnership with the city and with Second Harvest. And it turns out later, the Children's Services Council, to not just do something to those neighborhoods, but to meet with those neighbors who live in those neighborhoods, talk with them about what those barriers to food security are, and then acting upon that. And I've got to admit, I was a little concerned when we started doing this. I thought, well, how can we make sure this is going to be profound and significant, as opposed to simply just checking a box and moving on to the next item. And as I started going to these meetings, these community meetings that the city and that the county and city and Second Harvest and CSC had, I saw that there was a lot of real work being done. And so this agenda item is the result of those 9 meetings, as well as the direction that this county commission and has been able to work with the county administrator on. As the county administrator mentioned, probably the number one thing that we learned from those meetings was simply having people connected or needing to connect people with the resources that currently exist, whether that's Second Harvest or something else. So the proposals that are here within this agenda item, I think, are very significant. It's not simply just taking this agenda item, patting ourselves on the back for a job well done and moving on. This is a commitment, a long-term commitment toward working with very important partners on tackling hunger in Leon County. And so one of the things I'm most proud of today is the fact that I'm hoping that we will pass this agenda item and put this in our agenda for FY23, because this signifies a long-term commitment to dealing with people, dealing with the struggles that people have in this county when it comes to lack of nutritious food on a regular basis. So, Mr. Vice Chair, wholeheartedly support this motion. I will move for option 1 through 5 and hope that my colleagues will support it. Thank you very much.
Option 1 through 5 has been moved by Commissioner Minor, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. Any other commissioners want to speak? Commissioner Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just want to commend Commissioner Minor on his dedication to this issue and to county staff for facilitating this really good solution, really good, not solution, but alternative option, action, if you will. Commissioner Minor, this is obviously an issue very close to you, and I think it's a real testament to your service that this has made it through. So I will support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Food insecurity is a very real issue in our community, and I'm just so proud that this commission has recognized that it has gone beyond recognition to take positive action. I guess I'm doubly proud of this particular item as a member of this county commission, as well as a member of the Children's Services Council. I'm this commission's representative on that council. And I'm just proud of the holistic approach that has been taken to food insecurity by bringing those partners together that provide direct services to our communities, as well as bringing together partners that can provide financial services. I'm also elated that not only do we recognize the seriousness of it, but we took it to the areas that have been identified as the most crucial, the most families in these particular areas that are experiencing food insecurity. So I'm in support of this particular initiative. I want to thank the county administrator, Ms. Hunter, Shinkton, all of you all that have worked together and took it straight to the people in the communities with these 9 roundtable discussions about the most serious issues as it relates to food deprivation. So thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Like Commissioner Minor said, I believe we have to press the pedal to the metal on this, not let up. Let's keep momentum. Very, very pleased by the collaboration that's been indicated here. And I would like to add one ingredient, which I believe is worthwhile. We were asked at a forum over at the church on Brevard in Dewey, Watson Temple. Thank you. What was the county going to do about growing gardens and helping the people grow food and blah, blah, blah? And I honestly didn't know, for one. I have no farming background experience, so I didn't know. I mean, a lot of them green and collard greens and mustards and all them seeds look alike to me. So I really don't know. I do know corn seeds. What to tell people about that. But it occurred to me, and I said then, and I offer now, that Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University has a significant name, agricultural. And I would love to see and would encourage a sixth option here, that we engage the Florida Agricultural University. They know the difference between a mustard seed and a collard green seed. I don't. Maybe commissioners, you know. But I didn't know what to say other than Gallup, state-funded university, $400 million per annum, and the very name, agriculture. And I believe that the Agricultural University should be made a part of the educating, the hands-on engagement of turning dirt over, and principally staking out in the various parts of town lots which may be publicly available, such as that across from Leonard Wesson on Orange Avenue, and there may be other lots owned by the county or the city, which over on Dunn Street, I think is a community lot. There are different lots and whatnot. But I would like to add to the maker of the motion, if we could put in an option 6, where we reached out to FAMU to really exercise and leverage the A in their name.
Mr. Meyer.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for offering that additional option. If you would allow me to make an amendment, that I'll gladly accept it. The IFAS exists in large part with that very same mission. It might be helpful to have IFAS partner with FAMU in terms of working together on that type of thing. Community gardens were very, very popular years ago, and what people have found is that community gardens start usually when you have 1 or 2 people that kind of are the genesis of setting up something in the neighborhood. But over time, what people have found is either that person or persons will either move away or shift their focus onto something else. And very often, in a lot of cases, there's not someone else to take their place in maintaining the garden. That being said, I think it's definitely a worthwhile effort. We need to maybe take a look at that, figure out what FAMU and IFAS can do together with us and others to revitalize that where it needs to be. Some community gardens are thriving, but I think you've seen a certain attrition because of the people that instigated the establishment of one, then move on to something else, and there's no one to follow them on maintaining that garden. But long answer to basically say I accept your friendly amendment if you'll accept the IFAS partnership included there too.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Commissioner Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Before I get to a couple other comments, I'm just going to pick up on the friendly amendment and the amendment to the amendment. So we have extension offices at both FAMU and UF Extension. So I believe you were talking, Mr. Chair, or flashback there, Commissioner Minor, about the UF IFAS extension. So I would just suggest, I mean, the UF IFAS extension and FAMU extension office, they work pretty closely together, but we wouldn't want to just work with FAMU proper. We would want to include both extension offices. And FAMU extension, it works, I mean, with the agriculture department, everything like that. They work closely with farmers throughout the region. And I think that gets to another component of this. But I don't know if that needs to be amended, but FAMU in your motion may be kind of a catch-all for the extension office and the university proper.
Why don't we say all relevant partners?
Yeah, that works too.
That counts everybody.
Okay. So again, before I kind of go back and make a couple other comments, the point about community gardens, and I got that question too, Mr. Chair, about food insecurity and not just community gardens. You're right, Commissioner Mentor, some of them are very successful. We've seen gardens for years and years and years, and folks, will turn over and they'll keep maintaining it, and others not so much. I think a component of this, and it's a little outside of what the scope of this really good agenda item, the Good Work product is, but there's a lot of discussion about our regional farmers. I talked with Jim Bellamy recently at the Frenchtown Heritage Market about sourcing produce, meats, poultry, eggs from our region, and how that really supports the job creation, our local farmers. He has talked with Feeding America, he's talked with Second Harvest. So that is both a economic development aspect in bringing that food into our community, but also something a little different than just building community gardens. Again, it's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, he's got a unique market in Frenchtown, which is great, and we may be able to do more, but it may be more about providing locally sourced food than really having people grow their own food. So I'm not sure if that needs to get into the motion or anything like that, but I just wanted to make that comment because I think that's something that the universities, the IFAS extension offices could be engaged with.
You're on point. What Commissioner Dozier just said is, I think, very important. Part of this new role for the community partnership manager position includes doing just that, finding partners here locally and connecting them to take advantage of and optimize food resources, which would include the Frenchtown, Jim Bellamy's effort in Frenchtown, as well as the extension offices, frankly, if you think of it that way. I'm happy to proceed with the friendly amendment and the additional option, but part of what I think the chairman is striving for is actually incorporated into the job description of this new community partnership manager that will be funded. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier.
Yeah, I'm glad you directed me to that paragraph there, Commissioner Minor. I mean, that is a big job description. It's a big job, and it's a good one through CHSB. So I think all of those different types of partnerships could be good. So I'm going to back up here for a second, not to repeat what all of my colleagues have said, but this is a very creative, very important step, and I truly appreciate all of the partners, and particularly county staff, how you've worked so closely with Second Harvest throughout the years, but definitely in the last couple of years, to fill some gaps, but also look at new ways of meeting the needs of our community. This is not just about, and I think you were getting to this, Commissioner Minor, it's not just about making sure someone has, and particularly children, have enough to eat, but this impacts their life development, their education, their ability to, get jobs and everything else throughout, I already said this, but throughout their lives, and this has a substantial benefit. So I truly appreciate that work. My question was about the steering committee, and if I have this correct, what the option is to bring us back an agenda item looking to establish the Trusted People Neighborhood Engagement Steering Committee. Is that correct? So that agenda item would come back?
That's correct.
Okay. So if I'm reading this correctly, this would be a focus group, and when you have a focus group or an informational gathering group that isn't making choices, it can operate outside of the sunshine, which is not a problem in this case. If you're just gathering information, having a lot of private conversations, that group doesn't necessarily say, we don't want to present this part of the information. They present everything back to city, county, CSC staff. Do I have the right
Yes.
thinking about that? Okay. But with that, they don't ever directly report to any of the three boards. And while I don't think that's necessarily a problem in a regular reporting structure like one of our standing committees, it does seem like that information, particularly if citizens are engaged in new ideas, the commissions, both city, county, and the Children's Service Council, people may expect these commissions to understand what is being brought into the steering committee, right? So it may be helpful, whether it was in a formal agenda item or just a report to the board after the quarterly meetings or twice a year, something like that, if the steering committee provided a summary of that feedback to the three bodies. That way, board members on all three bodies can really, understand what the community is sharing with the steering committee, and could also direct citizens if they have other ideas back to the steering committee. I'm seeing a lot
Absolutely.
of heads nodding.
We agree.
Okay, fantastic. Does that need to be part of the motion or in the
No,
agenda
we-
item you bring back?
It could be part of that item that we bring back, and we were frankly just planning on status reports to the respective bodies.
Perfect, okay. I'm glad you're already planning that. The communication is critical, and we all know when citizens provide that information, they kind of expect all of us to understand what's been brought into the county or city staff. Other than that, Mr. Vice, I don't know if we're on Mr. Chair or Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. Vice Chair is, okay. Y'all keep us going here. Yeah, on our toes. This is an incredible item. Again, you all have already talked about the community meetings, how you work through this issue, and I'm just really proud of this. It's a huge step, and you're absolutely right, Mr. County Administrator. I think you said this, but having the pop-up mobile pantry, that is a significant addition, and I'm really glad the county can lend that support to Second Harvest. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Mr. Chair?
Thank you, Commissioners. I think that I hear Bruno Mars in the background, and I want to leave the door open for FAMU to get involved, get engaged in this. And that door is open, and I hope that they step into it. The Mercer report, which our board conducted some years ago, captures an additional lens with which poverty has not been included in our recent takes. We've looked at food, we looked at the 32304 analyses, but also healthcare, and what my first remembrance of the county looking into, use Commissioner Dozier's term, a deep dive, was through a Texas firm called Mercer. And Vince, I'd like for our board to get, if not the comprehensive, certainly the highlights from the Mercer, because of course you know where nutrition is an issue, where there are breakdowns, typically health breakdowns occur, dental needs, care for mothers and children, that has to be integrated in the current narrative. And one of the things which COVID did do, it recalibrated a climate by which it was no longer soft stuff or shameful to talk about human needs. And with COVID, our government, many other governments have been brought back to the fundamental and basic ideas such as food deserts and poverty and serving human needs and even placing social agendas above the ideas of developers and all of that. For many years we've been trending in the direction of investment, how much is this worth, will this increase the tax base, blah, blah, blah. But since COVID, we've actually gone back to counting who's hungry and who needs help. And it feels good to be part of our team as we have been receptive to that swing in persuasion. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chairman. And I think that if we move this thing forward, I anticipate that next 3 years or so, we will have an award-winning, NACO-winning action plan, because what we have is an IFL, a FAMU, Second Harvest, and all these things that as a national model I have never seen reflected. But we have the elements to create an international model of how to solve hunger in local communities. Thank you so much, Ms. Vice Chair.
Thank you, commissioners. Healthy discussion there. This thing has been amended so many times, I don't quite know what the motion is. I know it's staff recommendation, but staff has it. Does the commissioners understand the motion on the floor? I get nods. Yeah, we're good. Mr. Chair, good. All right. All those in favor of the motion on the floor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. We'll go now to the next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this item provides a status report on a multi-year implementation plan to upgrade and enhance the safety, aesthetics, and amenities at the county's 24 boat landings. Very briefly, Commissioners, your preliminary budget and 5-year capital improvement plan includes $925,000 to support these efforts. You all will recall, Commissioners, actions taken recently over the last couple of years by this board includes specific actions to implement significant upgrades and improvements at the boat landings, including safety improvements at all locations, established dedicated life funding, new fishing piers at numerous landings, the educational kiosks that were added, the board's direction to all of the landings, establishing an agreement with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission to provide regular maintenance of the boat landings at no cost to the county, and a lot more. Additionally, needed improvements, renovations have been identified to finish creating uniformity, enhanced user experience, and a park-like aesthetics at every boat landing in the county. Major infrastructure improvements are also planned, including fishing piers, overlooks, boat dock replacements, and ramp replacements. The 23 preliminary budget includes funding for the improvements to be implemented over the next 5 years, with many taking place next year. Of course, I want to recognize the hard work of Maggie Terrio and Amanda Heidecker, who are here, of course, ready to answer any questions. But with that, Commissioners, we're recommending option 1. And again, happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, you know me, I'm a stickler for policy. Let's see if we got a motion on the floor first. Is there a motion for staff recommendation?
So moved.
Staff recommendation has been moved by Commissioner Dozier. There's a second. Seconded by Commissioner Welch. Any discussion on the item? Mr. Chair?
If staff can let Commissioner know, at least the chairman know where the fish is biting at these particular. I hate going out there, and every time I go out there, the fish not biting at the land that I go to.
Commissioner Meyer said come on over to Lake Jackson, they bite over there.
We'd love to have you in Lake Jackson, sir.
Yes.
Sorry.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chair, this is a great item, a lot of creativity, cost savings, truly appreciated. As I think I reflected on this years ago, an item this is the first time I saw we had 24 boat landings, and as someone who grew up here all my life, I didn't realize there were that many when that item, so it is a number that got stuck in my mind, and I share it with others, and it stands out to them as well. So the more we do to improve these landings, promote them, Trailahassie, other things like that, people are really finding this. I think this is fantastic, and you know, we could travel outside of our county to find a lot of fun things, but there's a whole lot of things to do right here. So that's just the general statement. I did note the MOA with Florida Fish and Wildlife and providing regular maintenance to some of the boat landings. This is just something, I really appreciate you highlighting this. I mean, obviously it's a good partnership we have, but it was surprising to me to learn that FWC, that we could have access to dollars to clean up invasives in certain areas if there was a boat landing. That is one of the requirements. I talked to folks a couple years ago about Alford Arms, about the portion of Lake Lafayette that is kind of on the end of the Alford Greenway and borders the railroad tracks there. And it is heavily choked with invasives and other things. And one of the things they said was if there was a boat landing in that area, we may be able to access additional funding for cleanup. So it's not necessarily germane to this, but I think boat landings have an added benefit for us. They give us access to additional partnerships and additional funding. And County Administrator Wanda, I see you nodding here, so I assume I'm on the right track, and this is what the benefit of those, the partnerships for those 17 landings, correct? Okay. So yeah, it's not just about our creativity, but this has a benefit for water quality, for reducing flooding, for other things like that. And I think as we step up this program, looking for new opportunities could be really beneficial. So very happy to support it. Great work. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Seeing none, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor of the staff recommendation made by Commissioner Dozier, seconded by Commissioner Welch, indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. Mr. Administrator, next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, you've already discussed this next item, so I will hit the high points because it is so important, but you'll may recall again from previous items that the bill on the federal infrastructure bill, the Investment and Jobs Act provides more than $1 trillion for transportation, water, broadband, and other infrastructure projects. The item before you provides an overview of the bill and the status of the various funding opportunities that are available. The vast majority of these grants are still being developed by the federal agencies that will be implementing them. As always, we're in constant communication with our federal lobbying team to stay up to date with the development of all the grant opportunities. I'll also note that Blueprint has already submitted applications under 2 of the programs that have already opened, but again, most of them have not. For all other federal programs, we're evaluating opportunities as it becomes available. Finally, in the item, you'll see that there's nearly 200 separate federal grant programs that will distribute federal funding under the Act. And to best position the county commissioners, again, as you've already discussed, we're recommending and included in the preliminary budget is funding for the grants coordinator position, a full-time grants coordinator position. This position will be responsible for evaluating county projects and preparing grant applications for compliance and reporting. This funding for the position will be offset by eliminating a vacant position. And with that, commissioners, we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Vice Chair.
Staff recommendation been moved by the chairman, seconded by Commissioner Dozier. Discussion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I just
Yes, sir.
want to commend our board. This is visionary. We need a specialist to go after this. I don't know if you guys saw 60 Minutes, and Transportation Secretary Buttigieg was on with Anderson Cooper Sunday, and they talked about this new $1 trillion+ of infrastructure money on the street that we're committing to what is the largest public works expenditure of money since the Eisenhower administration is significant. And for us to have a specialist to start off, and this could even grow, in my opinion, to a team of 3, because we got to go for it. And the formula, which this money could come through states, which means ours being a blue county, is going to be rough going for the state to squeeze us and give us a bone. But there's also local money that will come. And each of these rules have their own nuances, and you almost got to be a specialist. So I think that we are placing ourselves in a competitive advantage to secure monies, because before Commissioner Dozier becomes a member of the AARP, my hopes is that we can secure and finish the development of Capital Circle Southeast. I just don't understand And I hope that we can also get Woodville Highway expanded, and we need it, given that the largest developer in the United States is coming down there to make greater confusion over the limited infrastructure that's already existent. So I'm totally excited. I'm really excited because this position is going to not only pay for itself, but it's going to underwrite, kind of like Texas A&M's football program pays for swimming and tennis and badminton and all of that. You want the checkered team to get some money, but the football pay for it. What we're bringing in now is a football element to help undergird and underwrite the cost. So thank you, Vince. And I would say let's expedite this with all due haste. Thank you.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. Mr. Administrator, next
Thank
item.
you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, as directed at your May 10th meeting, you'll recall this item. You directed us to bring this back at this time to provide funding options for the purchase of 3 properties necessary to acquire and access the Lake Hall Schoolhouse. Consistent with board direction, funding to acquire these properties is not currently included in the FY 23 budget. Rather, the board requested funding options to consider during today's workshop. Should you wish to pursue this. As you know, the board has considered several recent agenda items on the topic. As discussed in the item, the total acquisition costs for the subject properties would be $891,000. There are 2 separate funding strategies that the board may wish to consider to acquire the properties. One would be to utilize general fund balance. I know we just had a discussion about that. And 2 would be to through reductions or deferrals in the capital budget. Under this option, the workshop ratification would include a recommended specific capital project list of cuts or reductions to offset the full acquisition cost. Finally, at last week's meeting, Commissioners, you approved an option agreement for the Thomasville Road property pending your consideration today. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. We're seeking board direction on this item.
Commissioner Cummings?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and thank you, Mr. County Administrator, for that synopsis. And as he indicated, this has come before us several times in our commission meeting. But at this point, Mr. Vice Chair, I'd like to move that we approve the option to sign the agreement for a 1-year moratorium, I guess, on the sale of the property. And that option would require us to pay $20,000. And I believe that 1 year would allow us an opportunity to seek other partners in the funding. And I think we specifically mentioned the Leon County School Board as well as the City of Tallahassee. And that would also allow those individuals, proponents of purchasing a Lake Hall School, to also pursue other funding opportunities as well. So I move that we approve the option to pay $20,000 to reserve the option to purchase the property for 1 year, and we can explore other areas.
The option has been moved by Commissioner Cummings. Is there a second? Is there a second? Anybody else want a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Welch?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Cummings, so is that under option 4, board direction? In terms of, because your motion is to do, I think, what we did last week, right? We've already done that.
I don't think we, at our meeting, I don't think we moved to accept that option. I don't believe we did. I think we deferred to the budget workshop, if I'm not mistaken. I asked for clarification from the county administrator at the time.
It was, you did discuss that they were connected, but the issue was your action and the way that we interpreted your action was that it was, I'm looking at Chastity, that it was contingent on you purchasing the properties or the consideration of your purchase of the properties today. So should you consider the purchase of the properties, we would exercise the option. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think the administrator just exactly,
Yep.
that's what the motion was last time, but today what I'm hearing is specifically that only move forward with the option. I think the motion's very specific. What I'm hearing is you only want us to move forward with the option for the Thomasville Road property and not provide the funding for the parcels at this time, but just move forward with the option and reserve the right to buy it.
Yes, we understand today's motion. I was just trying to clarify the last
So-
motion, but yes.
So this motion is to just do the $20,000, one-year land lease? Essentially, is that what?
Yes, sir.
$20,000. That's an option 4 board direction. It's not 1, 2, or 3. Correct?
Yeah, I guess
Board
that would
direction.
fall.
So
under-
it's just to do the $20,000 for the year, and then that gives them the opportunity. Okay, thank you. That's the clarity I needed.
As a follow-up, Mr.
ma'am.
County Administrator, if we are doing that and looking at purchasing options, I would think at any point during the year, this could come back as an agenda item to the commission board. Am I correct?
You are correct.
If not budgeted, the staff will find them to, if it comes back in the agenda item to make purchase, correct?
Yes, either way, you'd probably be utilizing fund balance to do
Yes.
so it would just be mid-year versus a budgetary
Got it.
utilization of fund balance, yeah.
The process for mid-year will be,
It will be just based on your direction at an agenda, with the agenda item before you at a regularly scheduled meeting.
any other discussion?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I have a couple of comments to make.
Yes, sir.
Should we take the year to give additional consideration to the considerations that we have given? I like to see the original Lincoln High School on Brevard Street viewed in part as a new hub for vocational training with the school board, that it also could be utilized as a site for the civil rights museum, such as the one a proposal that has been brought to us previously, and that even potentially, if it's cheaper for the county to simply move the house at Lake Hall and to place it on the historic grounds of the original Lincoln High School, which just off the top of my head, I think it came into being in 1869. That's a great amalgamation of vocational training, taking that old site. I think it has historic designation, moving the schoolhouse, which save us enormous amount, and we're paying $20,000, and then we're just moving the house to Lincoln's ground, and we get to do 3 things in one consideration. And I'd like for us to reach out to the school district for their shared monetary responsibility in doing those things. And again, I would ask, who made the motion? The maker of the motion, Commissioner Cummings, consideration that over the course of this year, that we give staff the authority to also broach the school district with interest in our jointly bringing original Lincoln High School up to speed. We could do that with bonding, as well as the school's bonding capacity, that we bring the school off that site and put that school on the Lincoln grounds, which is historic as well, and that we also would foster introduction to vocational for that 32304 area, 32304 vocational. So that's just for the staff to look into conjunctively with your motion's direction.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. May I just ask the county administrator, in following up on the chairperson's proposal, do we have any ownership rights? What steps would we have to take, number one, to be able to move that structure, number one, and number two, is that particular movement part of the option that's on the table, the option that was brought before the commission at our last meeting? Or it might be county administrator.
No, not currently. It's not one of the options that are presented in terms of moving the schoolhouse. That's not before you. There were some preliminary analysis done, engineering analysis done that indicated early on, we brought that information to you, that it would be problematic to move the school. Not sure if the school would survive a move like that. But again, that was information that we previously provided to you all in some of the earlier items.
Right. And may I follow up?
Yes, ma'am.
And I wasn't really thinking about the logistics of moving it physically, because I know the building is fragile, but I was thinking from property owner standpoint. It's not on county property. The building sits on the property of two private homeowners. So during our discussion with those homeowners, have we gotten a sense, Mr. County Administrator, that they would be willing to allow the county to attempt to move that structure? I mean, I don't think we can just go in and move the structure without some permission or some ownership rights, which I don't think we have either one at this point.
We had some preliminary conversations with homeowners where there was some willingness to do it. We abandoned those conversations early when we determined the condition of the house was probably not suitable for making a move.
It's not suitable
For actually moving it. Yeah, so we had some of those conversations earlier about their willingness to do so, but those conversations ended when it was determined that the house may not be able to make a move.
It's too fragile.
Sure.
And then my other issue that I want to zero in on, and I think we mentioned it, is the option that we have to pay the $20,000 to hold in abeyance for a year. Moving that structure is not part of that option. So if we want to seriously look at that, is it possible to go back and negotiate that as part of that option?
The option that is exercised is not one of the properties that the home is located on. It's the property
that's right.
that provides the access.
That's right. That's right. So we'll be talking about a totally different agreement with two separate property owners as it relates to that structure. Thank you.
Well, I was curious, Chair, Mr. Vice Chair and Commissioners, about the chain of title. And of course, I'd asked previously, under what presumption was I to believe that this is a responsibility of Leon County's government to re-up on this school? And I didn't see anything here, but staff, do you have anything on the chain of title, and how did this get to our front door?
Yes, I believe the county attorney distributed information on that.
I apologize, I haven't seen it.
No problem. Yes, so information was distributed yesterday to confirm that there is no statutory obligation of this commission to purchase, renovate, do anything related to this schoolhouse. In terms of chain of title, we were able to go back to a 2001 feasibility engineering study, which had done some work in looking at the ownership of the underlying property where the schoolhouse is located. And they did confirm that title to that property did pass from the Leon County School Board to a property owner. There was insufficient time between the last meeting and this meeting to have a full title search done, which would have been necessary to track the change in ownership over time since the school board conveyed that property. But we have no reason to believe that the current owners of that underlying real property are not the rightful owners upon which that schoolhouse is located.
Okay, so if my legal training serves me, we can't move forward until we're clear about title on doing anything with a property that we're not clear about. Is that accurate?
If the board were to move forward and direct staff to investigate the purchase of those properties, that would necessarily involve title work associated with any potential purchase of those properties. So that is work that would be done as a result of board direction, if that's the board's desire.
Okay, to the maker of the motion, Commissioner Cummings, would you object to your motion also encouraging our staff to do a search with our school district for a joint collaborative project in the restoration and the doing all the things that potentially could occur? I think it's very important, not really knowing how the ball dropped. I dare not think that the school district as a government gave a private entity, just gave an entity, and I would question the legality of that. I'm not clear about it. And we can't go deep into moving on property, as you know, without its title being cleared. So in the interim of the next year, could we look at and share with the school board our interest in them sharing and putting some shoulder under this project?
Mr. Vice Chair, I wouldn't be opposed to that friendly amendment to the motion.
All right, amendment's been accepted. Commissioner Dozier.
And I'm sorry, just to clarify on that amendment, it was exploring the collaborative work with the school, in-kind schools, okay. So, as we've said every time this is 5, 6, 7 times we've seen this recently. Dr. C and I were trying to remember exactly how many riding up the elevator. I want to say first for the Friends of Lake Hall, but also for our staff, our legal staff, county administration staff, everyone, I think it would be appropriate, Mr. County Administrator, based on what you've said, to also recognize Andy Johnson by name on this one, for an incredible amount of work and creativity over the last few months on all parts, to look at how, I mean, we've gone from eminent domain discussions to a range of issues into where we are now. So I think we have, I hope it has seen that demonstrated our commitment to trying to solve a really, really challenging situation. Mr. Chair, you had asked for that additional information, and it was notable to me that the county attorney said you were able to go back to the conveyance documented in June of 1891, and you led that up to 1949, but then a deed in 1976. That's where you noted that the property was subdivided, correct? So this is something that has been going on, and I know this very well because I was 1 year old at that point, so for a really long time. It should, from my perspective, and I've said this before, never have been subdivided in 76. This was a historic property. And to draw a property line down the middle of, in the middle of this building, that was a mistake at that point.
Negligence.
Right, and Mr. Chair, you brought that up. And that leads to why this is so complicated and there's so many different parcels in question here. So, I don't think, I mean, it's only been a week since we had our last meeting, so Mr. County Administrator, there's not been robust conversations with the school system or with City of Tallahassee at this point, correct? I mean, you wouldn't have had the time.
Just initial outreach.
Okay. So I will not want to speak for him, but if they wanted to work with us on this, that would be fantastic, but given the budget challenges, and I'm particularly thinking about Leon County Schools, every found dollar for them is going right into the schools and education and helping students. I would be surprised, unless they qualify for grants. I mean, that may be something, but that comes back, Madam County Attorney, to the question of, can we apply for those grants before we have ownership? Correct, that might be a challenge there, okay. So I am concerned that we may spend $20,000 as a placeholder, and the partners we're looking to may not be able or willing to work with us, and then we come right back here in several months and have the same conversation. Not much would have changed at that point. So that is one concern. Secondly, I guess I have a question about this option, because originally contemplated, and what we saw on our agenda last week was, if I have this correct, it was a option for first right of refusal, basically on the sale. It wasn't, and correct me, I didn't go back to that attachment, but was it a moratorium on the sale for a certain time period, or is it, I read it as an option and first right of refusal.
We had an option to buy it over the next 12 months. They couldn't continue to sell it. We have the sole right to purchase it.
So it would lock it in for 12 months. So the owner would not be able to sell the property for 12 months should we exercise this option?
Correct.
Okay. Have we had the conversation with the owner? I mean, that originally, as you presented this, the option was going to be in place if we also approved the budget number or the budget allocation to purchase the property, which means come, our new fiscal year, the county administrator could negotiate and move forward. Does the owner understand that if we simply do the option without that budget allocation, we may never move forward with that purchase?
Correct, but the agreement, the way it's structured, doesn't require us to purchase it. It merely preserves the option for us. We connected the two for the budget purposes for your action for the board. That language is not in the agreement with the owner.
Okay.
And then we did that merely to buy us time for the get to October. The intent was if the board was going to fund it, we needed the 3 months so they didn't market it. Under the scenario, my understanding of what Commissioner Cummings is saying, she is saying, let's preserve that option for 12 months and see if there's other funding opportunities before we make a final decision on if we want to move forward in buying it.
I think my question, if I was a property owner, and I've not talked to this owner, a scenario where your county has this option, so this person can't sell their property at least, until after October 1. Of course, it's not going to bind us to that decision because there's title, appraisals that have to happen, other things that have to happen into the due diligence. So we can't absolutely commit to that, but it would be implied if we had budget funding for this, if we decided today to, approve the $891,000, it would be implied that with that due diligence, based on past conversations.
Based on past conversations, I think you're right, but I think the nature of these options are speculative by nature, but I think the issues you raise about some of the assumptions may be accurate.
Ooh, I disagree with that. I'd like the county attorney to speak to things legal. Does our signing first right of refusal imply anything beyond 1 year?
It does not. This option agreement is structured so that the property owner will receive the $20,000. We would lock in the discretion to purchase or not within that 1 year time frame. On its face, that option agreement does not reference the purchase of the other two properties. If the board moves forward with the purchase within that 1 year time frame, that $20,000 will be applied to the purchase price for the Thomasville Road parcel. Otherwise, if the board does not move forward within that year time frame, the property owner keeps the $20,000 and that's it.
On point, Mr. Vice Chairman. If you just one more, thank you. Does the seller have to produce a clear title? Who is that burden on to find a title that we could move on? Is that not the seller's responsibility, the owner?
Well, what we would do is perform or have a title search performed, and any clouds on the title, to your point, if there's any issue with liens or anything like that on the property, would have to be cleared up before the sale occurred. But that's the common practice when you're
They got
purchasing
a lot
a piece
of
of real
work to
property.
do.
Commissioner Dozier?
Mr. Vice Chair, and I appreciate the county attorney and county administrator's clarification on this. I do understand the legal documentations. I mean, we can't and we wouldn't say we will absolutely buy this property by exercising an option. Of course not. But I'm just going to take this out of that legal structure. If I was the owner of this property and I was hearing the county will exercise an option if we commit the money to purchase, should everything, we meet all these benchmarks, there's an expectation that we're probably moving forward. Not a guarantee, to be sure. Now, $20,000 is a pretty big incentive, so maybe they don't mind so much. But my range of questions there was just, has this owner, I mean, do you think there would be any further discussion necessary, say, before we ratify this item in July, to need to make sure that the owner was okay with the option exclusive and understanding there's no budget line item? It was just a question, because this has been very complicated. There's been a lot of different discussions with the owners, a lot of different proposals over time. So I'll leave that aside, but if I were in that position, that's two very different scenarios. The other part, and Mr. County Administrator, I think the board had asked for additional information maybe 2-3 agenda items ago on what the county's responsibility would be should we take this property. You added in there fencing, some other just limited things, and you added in some information about either conveying this property or leasing it to Friends of Lake Hall, who would be committed to taking on the responsibility for any additional improvements, grants, other things. Did I frame that accurately?
You did.
Okay. So, in this scenario, we are purchasing something and putting up fencing for $890,000, and I do believe the Friends are accurate. I mean, there's a lot of funding out there, and they could bring that in. But this could be a multi-year project. Has there been any discussion with the surrounding neighborhood about other than those 3 property owners?
With the motion that's on the floor right now would only be to exercise the option, and that's it.
I understand that.
Yes, okay.
Right.
Okay.
I'm asking the question because that's the first time we've seen that information with the other, regardless of the motion on the floor or the other motions.
Oh,
I'm
I hear
just
what you're saying,
wondering-
yes.
I mean, if this were to move forward in the future, this
Sure.
is the first time we've seen how you would handle that, and there may be a lease or a conveyance to Friends of Lake Hall. So
Correct. That would all have to come back to you.
that would all have
Yes.
to come back and, okay. Mr. Vice Chair, and Commissioner Cummings, the maker of the motion, I'm asking these questions because every layer of this, I mean, it's like peeling an onion. There's other complicating factors, right? And I'm not quite sure what to think about Lincoln Center, although I do hear there might be some movement on the old Sale High School, which I'm quite sure someone in their backyard might like something a little bit different there, and activate that property. That would be pretty exciting. But what for my purposes for today, looking at the broad range of funding requests we have, all of the needs we have, how complicated this is, I have struggled with this since day one. I think $20,000 in the option, if that is a placeholder to really dig in and look for other partners, that may be worth it, but I am having a hard time thinking about how the schools and the city will be able to walk with us given their respective budget challenges. So we may be out $20,000 with no return on that investment, and the county may be faced with the same question to purchase all 3 properties several months from now. I think that's a big ask. If we got budgets that, you know, we're trying to balance all these various pieces. This is an important historic structure to preserve. None of us have wanted to lose it. That's why we're here after so long. But I've got a lot of concerns about keeping this going for a while because I'm not sure that we're going to get to that point of having partners to fund this project. And if that is the goal, if the board's not willing to pay the full amount, then I think this is potentially a windfall for that one homeowner, but not necessarily moving us forward and puts us in a difficult position and the Friends in a very difficult position in the future. So I just wanted to bring those comments in. I'd love to hear from others. I may be the only one who has those concerns. But I think we've explored every different option here, and I'm having a hard time seeing how we're going to land this plane. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. Any other comment? Motion has been made to exercise the option by Commissioner Cummings. I believe the second came from Commissioner Minor, correct?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, is that
We made a second for the option.
I believe so, yes.
Yes.
It was so long ago.
Yep.
Procedural comment. I think this came up, Madam County Attorney, in our briefing last week. Approving this today, it still has to be ratified at our July meeting. So the option won't actually be formally executed until after that ratification. This is a big ask, but that gives you a few more weeks. Do you think there could be any other conversations with the schools or the city in the next few weeks?
Yes.
Okay. I can get there with the motion on the table if we can get additional conversation, because we've only given them 1 week so far. But if our staff can have additional conversation before our July meeting, we could still make a decision at that meeting whether or not to move forward with the option based on that response. Do you need that as part of the motion, Ms. County Administrator?
Yes, Ms.
No. You already have direction to work with the schools.
Yes.
But to bring us back additional information in July?
Absolutely.
Do you need that as part of the motion?
I don't necessarily need that, no.
Thank you.
Happy to bring it back.
Commissioner Cummings.
Yes, Mr. Vice Chair, just prior to us taking the vote on the motion on the floor, I certainly recognize that this is very complicated. If it wasn't complicated, we wouldn't have had it come back to the commission, 4 or 5 times now. And I think it also demonstrates that we as members of this board are also concerned about restoration and preservation, of history. And I think we are trying our best to see how we can make this work. This particular option would just give us the opportunity to purchase just one property on Thomasville Road that's essential to access to the Lake Hall School. So this does not involve the structure of the Lake Hall School or the properties that the school sits on, but it's essential, important, primary, so that we would have access if we decided to move all the way to purchase all the property associated with the school. This would give us that access. Now, if in the final analysis, Mr. County Administrator, I think if the decision was made to actually purchase this Thomasville Road property and no further action was taken as far as the school is concerned, I don't believe it would be a loss to the county. This is on Thomasville Road. It's prime property in my opinion, so I don't think it's a situation where the county would be stuck with the property if we went as far as purchasing the other 2 parcels where the school actually physically sits and we're not able to secure the funding to do the total 2.5 million renovation. I still don't believe it would be a loss because all of these are in an area in the county off Thomasville Road that I believe would have great resale value. So I just want us to think in terms of that as well. It's not as though we'll purchase this property on Thomasville Road and that's it. And I think also, like our chairperson of the commission, Proctor, indicated at our meeting last week, we as commissioners have to be concerned with taxpayers' fund. We have to be fiscally responsible. And so I believe taking this step shows our fiscal responsibility to the taxpayers while also trying to do the best we can to achieve the ultimate purpose if we can. So, of course, I made the motion, and of course, I'm in support of that particular motion, but I just wanted to make it clear, I don't think it would be a dead end for us if we purchase the property. I think it has great resale value.
She was asking for clarification on the last few words you said, Commissioner Cummings.
I'm sorry. I said if we purchase the property, I don't believe it would be a dead-end sale if we decided not to go forward with renovation of the proposed site, because it's off Thomasville Road, and I think it would have great resale value. So I think we could always sell the property.
That is true. If I may follow, Mr. Vice Chair,
Final word?
I need a clarification here. So for Commissioner Cummings for the motion, yes, we were talking about that one parcel on Thomasville Road. That's what the option's for. But the conversation with the city and the school board would be funding for the full $890,000 to secure all three properties, right? Or the two full properties and a portion. It would not just be, I mean, because that's a conversation we had several months ago, was just purchasing that Thomasville Road property and then kind of securing it so somebody else could get those other properties. To me, that's a package. Should we move forward, it would be all two full properties and the portion to capture the house. Is that, or the schoolhouse? Is that correct? Okay. Ms. County Administrator, she was looking at you. I mean,
That's correct.
that's the
understanding.
conversation.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure, I was a little confused there, that we're not just talking about Thomasville Road property. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other comment? Seeing none, motion on the floor is to exercise the option made by Commissioner Cummings, seconded by Commissioner Minor. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries without objection. Good item. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, this next item was requested during last week's board meeting. The budget discussion item before you provides additional information on the Florida Civil Rights Museum funding request for a virtual civil rights museum. As approved at last week's meeting, the board also directed staff to include the Florida Civil Rights Museum's incorporated state legislative request in the 23 legislative priorities, which will come back to the board in the fall. You asked that we provide additional information on the tri-party CRA interlocal agreement related to the use of tourism taxes previously collected for a downtown performing arts center, and how the Florida Civil Rights Museum may be able to access those funds. Preliminary information is provided in the analysis of this item, and a standalone item will also be presented to the board consistent with the direction that we received. As described in your previous agenda item, the Florida Civil Rights Museum incorporated its proposals in the early stages of conception, and COCA's grant programs could be an appropriate funding source once the proposal and programming are further developed. The county's support of a state appropriation request would provide the funding necessary to allow the organization to acquire, catalog, and build up its historical exhibits and website, which, as the analysis indicates, is the recommended place from a staff recommendation standpoint to start. Commissioners, currently the county's preliminary FY23 budget does not include funding for this project. However, should the board wish to consider funding, the item provides two funding options, and staff is here and happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Chairman, followed by Commissioner Minor. Who else is in line? Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. There's a song that came to mind that said something to the effect of "I ain't got long to stay here." I think it's a church song. It says, "I ain't got long to stay here," but I ain't got long to stay here because I have a 1 o'clock appointment somewhere today. And just to let you know, I ain't got long to stay here. I want to move option 2.
Option 2 has been moved by Commissioner Chairman. Is there a second to that motion? I'll second it for discussion.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I say to us commissioners, we have opportunity and option to here again bring collaborative forces to enrich our community culturally. We have definitely expended a significant amount of staff time wading into the waters of a school building. A lot of it's just unbelievable who the engineering firm was, almost unprecedented to divide a property line and how you make the mistake of dividing a property line to an existing structure. This issue is not that complicated. There's no titles that have to be cleared. This is merely the reflection in the aftermath and the spirit of Juneteenth this weekend, our nation celebrating yesterday. And I very much see the desire for civil rights museum as offered by the proponents who've brought this measure to our attention. I would like us to honor their request of $60,000, which I believe option 2 suggests, taken from the, it's right on that sheet of paper, and that's what I want to do. Some moments are fleeting, the door of opportunity. And Bruno Mars, I don't quite hear him saying that, but I don't hear Teddy Pendergrass saying close the door either. We don't want to close the door. We can leave the door open. And if there's a way that we can move forward with the collaboration that's been envisioned, all of our component members of this community to lift a history, American history, the cultural complexities of our local, and to celebrate as we come in 20 and 24 into this county's 200th year anniversary. And I think that as we're coming to the 200-year anniversary, that it's fitting and proper that as the rest of what slavery has been brought out of the shadows into a marvelous light this weekend, that it's also fitting on around the 200th year anniversary of our county that we have light that lifts up and celebrates those pioneers of heart and mind who saw the singular destiny and interaction of all of the people of our county to be recognized as one, and in particular with the 14th Amendment applying to black people in Leon County like everybody else. So I'm more excited about this right here than the old building. We don't even know the names of the first child was in the kindergarten out there, second grade. But there is clarity about names here. It's not a looking back into the distant fog and can't make nobody's face out. What these people are talking about, we can make out the names. We can make out the what they're lifting up. This makes sense. And this ain't no cloudy. So here's an old building and some people's out here. We don't know nobody that was out here. The janitor, we don't know the teacher, the principal, nothing. That's why I put this in front of us and ask y'all's support. Thank you.
I did. Any other? Commissioner Minor?
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your comments. I also want to thank Mr. Hollinger and Ms. Perkins for all their work on this, not just recently, but as years have gone working on this. At our last meeting, I think everyone will recall that we voted to have this be placed on our 2023 legislative agenda so that Mr. Hollinger and Ms. Perkins could work with our staff and our state lobbyists on appealing to the state legislature for funding for this. I think that is the most appropriate direction for this to take. As I said at the last meeting, I think Florida should have a civil rights museum, and I think that museum should exist here in Tallahassee. And I think the state legislature is in the best position to fund something of this scope and with this mission. So thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Other speakers? Mr. Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So I am concerned, and I'm scrolling down here, if I remember correctly, there was tiers in this modified budget, full funding and 240,000. Forgive me, I'm scrolling to the item here. We've got a lot of information in the item. But Mr. County Administrator, there was a consideration of a full funding request, and we do have the 60,000 as an alternative presented by the Civil Rights Museum. It's
That's
one of their alternatives, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. But I don't think it would be inappropriate to say in conversations that, and for 6 months funding, I mean, that does severely limit what the organization could do over the next time, and you would be working to get other additional funding during that time. I'm sure you wouldn't say no to 60,000, but it is severe limitation compared on those other tiers. That was my understanding. So that does raise one concern, but again, I mean, as others have said, I mean, I think having a civil rights museum in the state capitol is very good, and I don't think this is exclusively a Leon County, but if Leon City and other, could participate, I think we should participate. It's just a question of how. And Commissioner Minor, you've mentioned the legislative agenda. For me, I'm going to circle back to what I said last time on the CRA funding. And Mr. County Administrator, I do appreciate the history, the summary of the CRA funding that's in the item. And I think you already clarified this, but on page 2 under the background, you say the board direction was to bring back a budget discussion item considering funding, including using the remaining TDT dollars from the CRA for the alternative budget amount of 60,000. I just want to make sure, and again, I think you've already said this, that my amendment to that motion wasn't exclusive to 60,000, and it wasn't exclusive to funding in a budget discussion item. It was more about looking at the remaining 1.8 million. You say there's a bit more, 2 million, I read in this item, tourist development dollars that are within that agreement with the CRA. So
That's correct. We have the same understanding.
we have the same understanding. Okay. I just wanted to make sure because and so that agenda item, you told me yesterday it would be coming back. You mentioned that
Yes.
a few minutes ago. And I'm going to back into this for the board, but given that we now know the CRA is contemplating a new grant cycle come September, I think we need to, if we're going to have this agenda item, we need to discuss it in July, because if we wait until our September meetings and the CRA is moving forward with a new grant process, and the county is going to discuss whether or not we want to change any of the agreements with the CRA, those two, I mean, that could really run into each other. We may not have as many options on the table. So is it possible, I mean, it's basically the history that you've got with perhaps some other options, but
That's
can we
right.
have that for the July meeting?
It's our plan to get
Was
that
your plan?
item to you in July. Yes.
Okay. All right, good. I wanted to make sure that was coming back because, well, I might be able to get there with the 60,000. I actually think that this opportunity, and I'm not projecting forward. I mean, the Civil Rights Museum, I think, could qualify. There'd be a lot of different discussions about facilities and other things like that. There's TDT requirements, but this funding is for museums. It is for these types of, and it was intended to be used for facilities. I know you all have this in your agenda, but just to frame this, the county entered into this agreement with the CRA and the city in 2014 to use the remaining $5 million of TDT funds. We approved some for the amphitheater support space. The community room looks great. It's helping us activate the amphitheater. But we have been waiting 5 years for this money to be put on the street. The city approved the grant process in May of 17, the grants in July of 18, and the summer of 21. So a year ago, TLA said we needed a new location, and then in January or February, the city said they're going to rescind the award. So we're done. So when I look at this, it has now been 5 years, and if we don't get a new grant process approved, maybe it'll be September, maybe it'll be October, November. We're not starting that, and the last grant process took a year. So we're not activating these dollars for another year and a half, could be longer, and we've got needs in the community right now. We've waited too long. They also, and you didn't have this in the item, Ms. County Administrator, but I thought the CRA board did suggest ask CRA staff to reach out to us, visit Tallahassee to administer that new grant process. And because of the agreement is exclusively related to the CRA, that's not possible. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. So the city has already signaled, or the CRA has already signaled in the CRA board, which is the city commission, that they're not sure this grant process should be run through the CRA. So again, July seems like perfect timing. We may have funding. I mean, we have other funding options. Ms. County Administrator, correct me if I'm wrong. If we wanted to bring in the $60,000 allocation for Civil Rights Museum at some point after July, I mean, we've talked about fund balance, we've talked about contingency. I mean, there are other ways that we can look at that. Is that correct?
That's correct. We could do that.
Okay. So I don't want to delay this much longer, but I know 60,000 won't be as big of a lift and really help move the Civil Rights Museum to the next step. I mean, it's a little bit, and again, you wouldn't say no to it, I'm quite sure. But if we could wait until our July meeting and reflect on the CRA funding in addition to the direct allocation, there may be an opportunity to open up this funding to, I mean, I would love to see it pulled back to the City and County Commission directly, or even the County Commission, to make this allocation. And the last thing I'll say is, I think the chairman mentioned something, oh, he is still with us, okay. I couldn't see him there. The chairman mentioned something about, and I wasn't sure if it's the Lincoln Center or the old Sale High School property.
It was Lincoln Center.
It was Lincoln Center. Well, there are discussions right now, finally, about the old Sale High School property. Activating that in some way, and that significantly, that property, and I don't know if that would be desirable, but just since it was mentioned, that property, because it was publicly owned, is not in the Frenchtown Southside CRA. There would have to be a CRA amendment to move that property into the CRA so it could qualify for these dollars or for others. There's a lot of moving pieces here. I think there's a lot of good options, but my inclination is to wait until July so we see all of the details and have the conversation about the TDT dollars and whether or not that is a true viable option for the Civil Rights Museum.
All right. Any other comment?
Mr. Vice Chair, just very briefly, I have heard some sentiment in the community about the CRA funding possibility of 1.5 could be back on the streets again. So I'm excited about that potential for the Civil Rights Museum, as well as what we voted on last month about placing this as one of our legislative priorities. But having said that, I am prepared to support the chairperson's motion to adopt option 2 on the agenda. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Last statement. What'd you say last, Commissioner?
I am prepared to support
Thank you.
the motion for option 2 as proposed by the chair.
Commissioner Minor?
Mr. Vice Chair, just to clarify, the $60,000 would come from an option, in the chairman's option 2. Where would that $60,000 come from?
Where would it come from?
Fund balance.
Fund balance.
Fund balance, okay. Commissioner Dozier has a very persuasive argument. I think there's some value in waiting until July. As I said just a few minutes ago, I think the legislative appropriation is the most appropriate place for funding for establishing the Civil Rights Museum. I think I know where the mood of the board is going, and I think we all feel the same sentiment about supporting this and moving it forward. So I will, 'cause I think it could be a very beneficial thing to our community in terms of bringing new tourist dollars in. So I'll go ahead and support the motion for option 2 as well.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chair.
Anything else? All right. All those in favor? Yes, ma'am.
I've got to ask this. I mean, it's a similar question to Lake Hall Schoolhouse. For that one, I'm not going to be able to support Lake Hall in ratification without more information about from the schools and others. I mean, we need to have some more. For this one, and Mr. County Administrator, correct me if I'm wrong, but we could break up the ratification item come July. For example, should we have some openings on the CRA dollars and that discussion, we don't necessarily have to move forward with the $60,000. Would that, I mean, we would have some choices in July, correct?
That's correct. You provide your final direction in the ratification item.
Okay. Well, I would feel more comfortable if this was postured as moving it forward to July for discussion. I mean, I think we have to approve the option today. That's fine. But I just wanted to make that statement that I can support the motion, but it's more for discussion in July along with the CRA than a definitive or than a decision today.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank
can I
you.
speak to that, please?
Yes.
I understand Commissioner Dozier's sentiments, and I need to confess the content of my heart sentiment. But for this particular weekend and viewing, reading online, all things Juneteenth, had this come up last week, I probably could feel your sentiment. But my heart has been touched in a way that the civil rights history it speaks to me. You know, it's personal, and it's personal in a time where our state does not want history to be taught. Our state may well punish school districts that have certain books up. I am aware of efforts to sanitize the American evolution, but I've just seen so much this weekend that had my heart full. And this is why the immediacy of and the respect for this effort at this time, I understand where you are from my head, but from my shoulders down, I want the life struggles of all the people whose DNA I represent. I want this story lifted up into the light of day. That's why option 2 is the one that I support and ask you to support. Walk with me.
Commissioner Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your comments. I get the sense that the mood of the board here is that we want the Civil Rights Museum to continue, and we want to fund the $60,000. I think what Commissioner Dozier, I don't want to speak for Commissioner Dozier, but I agree with her notion, I believe that she stated it, was that we would like the opportunity. I agree with her with the notion that if we can choose between the $60,000 coming from the fund balance or CRA, my preference in particular is to have that come from the CRA. And I think Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Vice Chair, we might not be limited. County budget is limited, so we can't really do more than 60,000.
Yeah.
So Mr. Chair, that was really it. Is there may be more flexibility with the tourism dollars, more funding than just 60.
True. So anyway, I just wanted, I really, Commissioner Dozier's comments resonated with me because I think if we can choose where that funding comes from, I think we've got other options that we should consider. And it sounds like, we can pass this motion. I think this is going to be unanimous. And then come July, we can then see if there are other options available for us from which the funding could come. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair.
Mr. Vice Chair, I think that we can make our contribution. It's a placeholder, And it does not disallow in any way or inhibit any other additional sources. But we should, for a bird in our hands, which we have that potential to secure, let us put down, and oftentimes other agencies, based on your commitment and seriousness of purpose, they respond to initial backing. But to leave this project with no quote home base it weakens the probability of them attracting other sources of. And I think that when we put down and throw down the gauntlet today, we are giving indication to others to follow our lead. But it's truly a fact that we can't lead where we don't go, and we cannot teach what we don't know. We need to go here, and we need to know what this project will eventually wrought for our community as knowledge. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, the final item before you today is in the setting of the maximum millage rates. Commissioners, pursuant to Florida statutes, this item seeks board's consideration to establish the maximum millage rates for the utilization in the truth in millage process. Commissioners, the millage rates established today will be used by the property appraiser for the upcoming trim notices and your public hearings in September. Pursuant to Florida statutes, the millage rates can only be decreased at your public hearings. They cannot be increased at that time. This item recommends maintaining the current county-wide and EMS MSTU millage rates. Staff is recommending options 1 and 2. And upon your action on this item, Commissioners, it sounds like we do not need the July 12th budget workshop. Everything, it appears today, can be ratified in your budget ratification item unless we receive other direction from the board. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll hand it back to you.
All right. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Vice Chair, I move option 1 and 2.
Option 1 and 2 has been moved by Commissioner Cummings. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Minor. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, all those in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Commissioner Proctor out of chambers. Mr. Administrator?
That is all we have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You did a good job today. I appreciate the commissioners being expeditious in the way we handle things today. Commissioner Dozier, this is your last one. It's probably a moment for you. It's, what, 12
We've got
now?
a lot more work to do on the budget, but
Yes.
thank you, Mr. Vice.
Yes.
But yes,
But this is the last one of the first, so.
Last county budget workshop.
Yeah.
Budget
So,
work.
it's pretty cool. If any commissioners want to say anything right now, I'll recognize you. If not, we're going to adjourn. Commissioner Dozier?
Mr. Vice Chair, there is one other issue. I know it's late, so I'm just going to ask a procedural thing. I have a policy question. If we were to bring that up in comment time in July, it might be a little time sensitive, but we could get something back at the September meeting. I know that's really, really vague, but I thought if I needed to bring it up today, it just relates to communications and some other things, but we could bring that up. Anyway, I'm just going to stop there. You guys will take board directions. I'm sure you can bring us back a policy discussion. I didn't want to hold you all up anymore because it is getting late, but I do need to say this. Today is a phenomenally significant day. The chairman made some really nice comments last week, and it was noted in our agenda under one point about job development and other things. We will hold the official groundbreaking for the North Florida Innovation Labs at 3:30 this afternoon. This project has been 8-9 years in the making and could have a transformative impact on our entrepreneurs, our local economy, and certainly the work done at both FSU and FAMU. So it's had the support of the full board, and really appreciate that. And it's going to be hot, but it's going to be a very exciting afternoon. That's it, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you.
We are adjourned.